Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the number one challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and get some incredible motivation from the one and only Tom Bilyeu.
The man on top of the mountain didn't fall there. It's so tempting to look at people that have achieved the extraordinary and dismiss them as being more talented than you, better than you. But what you need to see is the simple truth. They've worked harder than you. They've earned something that you haven't yet earned. But here's the great news. That's empowering. Once you understand that they've just busted ass, once you understand that they've just put in an inhuman amount of work, and that the only thing that distinguishes the people that are on top of the mountain, the people that have really done something that's going to last, is that they put in the effort. They work on themselves. They understand that through discipline and effort over time, that we can get better. That is the human condition. That is the thing that I find most beautiful about being a person, is it doesn't matter if you're bad today. It doesn't matter where you start. It only matters where you're willing to go and the price that you're willing to pay to get there. And once you buckle down and you assure yourself and back it up with action that you're willing to pay any price to achieve the things that you want to achieve, then you'll really be living a limitless life. Whoever it is that you want to be, no matter how many times you may have failed at attempting to become that person leading up to this point, you can still become that person. You're going to decide who that is, whether it's a category like warrior or whether it's a specific person that you want to emulate. You're going to break their world down into do's and don'ts, how they would react to certain situations. You're going to hold that ideal in your mind, and you're going to force yourself to act in accordance. You are going to tell people what you're up to. And if you really have some balls, you're going to tell people that want you to fail. Because that, believe it or not, that's who's going to come to your rescue in your darkest hours of wanting to give up. It's going to be remembering that out there is someone who's laughing at you, who wants you to fail, that's talking behind your back about how you're never going to achieve it, and then imagine how rad it will be when you actually do achieve it. There is the darkness and the light, my friends, and you have to play in both. You've got to know 80% of your time in the light. Focus on the beautiful things you want to create and what you want to do with your life and all of that. There's 20%, some straight Darth Vader shit. Like, you've really got to lean into that. There is real power in anger, frustration, in not wanting somebody to get one over on you, on winning against all odds, all of that stuff. It is really powerful. And this is one of those things that I find a lot of times people are willing to lean on one tactic but not the other. Set aside all your judgments about the tactics. The human animal is designed a certain way. Anger exists for a reason. Pressure exists for a reason.
A few things. One, happiness, which is incredibly transitory, is probably not the right thing to focus on. The right thing to focus on, in my humble opinion, is fulfillment. And fulfillment has a formula which is about working really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to achieve a goal that is both honorable and exciting. So you have to be hyped up about it, and it needs to serve not only yourself, but other people. Now, that's a far more robust, resilient neurochemical state to pursue, and I should have said pursue a goal rather than attain it, because you may never attain it. But the pursuit of it ought to be the part that is leading you to fulfillment. So you're working really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people. Okay, so if we know that that's what we want to pursue, then the question becomes, how do we know that we're fulfilled? How do we know that we're happy? How do we know that we're sad? How do we know that we're anything? And the answer to that question is really self-awareness. And I mean literally being aware of self. So understanding that emotions spring forth from the body. They are not a top-down phenomenon. The interpretation of the emotion is a top-down phenomenon. But as Lisa Feldman Barrett details in her book, How Emotions Are Made, it's really a fascinating conversation is probably the right way to think about it, between your body and your mind. And so your body is giving you these feelings, which are in part due to values that you hold, beliefs that you have, historical experience, your genetic composition. And then based on that context, you literally feel a certain way. And then your higher level cognition tries to paint a story on top of that emotion, explaining why you feel it. But the reality is it's being kicked up by your body, and whatever story you're telling yourself may or may not be accurate. But we believe the story all the time, and this is how people end up in these negative spirals. But you have to learn to interpret those signals from your body. That's the important part about assessing where you're at on an emotional playing field, is you really have to get good at interpreting those emotions. You need a goal, and that goal needs to be two things. Exciting, meaning you just like it. There is something about it that you find motivational, exciting, whatever. And then the other part is it needs to be honorable. Now, honorable means that it elevates not only yourself, but other people. The reason those two things are the guaranteed 1-2 punch of success is getting motivated is all about managing your neurochemistry. It's about knowing how you want to feel, figuring out the things that make you feel that way, making sure that that feeling is incredibly elevated so that you really chase after that feeling. The reason that people do drugs is to modulate their neurochemistry. Now, the great news is that you can modulate your neurochemistry without needing to do drugs, but it requires you to invest emotionally in things that matter to you. Now, the number one problem I see when people are procrastinating is they are not very excited by their goal. You have to take the time, one, to figure out what it is that you like. What are the things that you respond to? Kevin Kelly has a really fascinating idea that he calls not prematurely optimizing. You don't want to prematurely optimize. You don't want to pick a life path until you've explored and understand what the things are that you get a natural response from. Now, it's just going to be some degree of like. I like this thing. It isn't going to be, oh my God, the heavens open up and it becomes clear what I should be doing with my life. It is way simpler than that. It is something that gives you more energy than it takes. Now, once you find the thing that gives you more energy than it takes, now we can begin investing in that. And we go back to that initial idea of I'm excited by my goal, which is very clear. I know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish, and it's honorable. Now, when you're doing something that elevates other people, you get in a positive feedback loop, because what happens is you work hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to move towards this goal that's exciting and honorable. And then you start getting feedback from people, because achieving your goal, even pursuing your goal, is helping other people. By helping other people, you get positive feedback. Because you're getting that positive feedback, the next time you want to lay on the couch, you need only think of them and the way that it makes you feel to help people, to elevate, to push yourself, to go and get something done. All right, that's the high level thing. Then you want to put rules into your life so that you don't end up wasting time, so that you catch yourself. So for instance, the reason that I don't ever find myself just laying around is because I have a rule. Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. Now, I've been very careful to make sure that the things that I'm working on are moving me towards that goal that's incredibly exciting and honorable. So I'm getting all the feedback from people by getting good at this thing and adding value to their lives. And it was already exciting. I just found it interesting in and of itself. And then I have invested emotionally over and over and over, focusing on the people that I'm trying to help, telling myself I'm trying to help these people, telling other people, embodying the emotion that I want to feel. And then I've got my rules to fall back on. I get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. And those two rules, as deceptively simple as they are, when combined with a goal that excites me, and then the feedback loop of actually being able to help other people, creates this thing where I get so much juice out of it. Now, you're going to have different rules. Maybe for you, it isn't that Monday through Friday you're either working or working out. Maybe it's Monday through Friday. If you're awake, you're either spending time with your family or you're working or working out, whatever. Like, you're going to make different allowances for the things that matter in your life. But as long as you're doing those things in their order of how you value them in your life, like you might say, Monday through Friday, if it's between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., I'm working. If it's between the hours of 5:01 and my bedtime, I'm spending it with family. Rad. Now you've optimized your life for the things that matter to you. You don't need to try to match my rules. You just need to know your value system and put it in order, build rules that allow you to actually accomplish that. And then hold yourself accountable. And if you're still not doing it, at some point we have to own that you just don't want it badly enough. And then we have to refocus on desire. Is there something that interests you enough that you can work that loop of creating that emotional connection in your life? And then that's where to start. You're having a biological experience. Nature has those two levers, pleasure and pain. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking, well, as long as I don't do things that create a problem, I don't do bad things, I'll be fine. What could possibly be wrong with sitting around in my apartment all day, goofing off, watching TV, playing video games, all that stuff, all individually wonderful, but when you put it together, suddenly it does not give you the life that you want, and you start to feel disease. You don't feel good. Something's not right. Something's off. I don't know why I don't feel good. And then, by the way, you're probably eating terrible food. And each bite individually is amazing, but it adds up to inflammation, dysbiosis, meaning your gut bacteria, your microbiome is out of whack, and it's sending signals to your brain that alter your brain chemistry and make you not feel good. Something isn't right. But why don't I feel good? I'm doing things that are awesome. This food is awesome. Playing video games is awesome. Relaxing, awesome. Reading a book, awesome. But life in total, not awesome. And how is that possible? Because nature has implanted directives in your brain to ensure that you work hard, because you grew up on the plains of the savannah, and life was hard, and life was scary. And if you weren't a part of the group, you were going to get eaten by something, you were going to die of exposure, you weren't going to make it. And so nature, by way of natural selection, has made it extremely pleasurable to work really hard to gain a set of skills that are unique and exciting to you, that allow you to serve not only yourself, but the group, makes that really feel good, even though it's hard, even though each step of that way is difficult. And yet it adds up to something extraordinary. Okay? It is the most counterintuitive, weird thing in the world, that if you do all of the individual things that are fun, it ends up where you feel like crap. And if you do individually all of the things that are hard and a struggle and are difficult, you end up feeling awesome. That's a reality of life. So I knew that. So even as I became successful, I never thought, hey, why don't we just retire? It won't work. It won't work, meaning work, because I won't be able to feel the way that I want to feel. I want to feel good about myself. I want to make progress in my life. I want to feel like I'm contributing. I know all of that because I understand how the brain works. I understand how nature embeds these directives in your brain, and it isn't enough to not do something bad. You have to be pursuing something that matters, meaning, purpose. That's it. That's the game. It isn't success. It isn't wealth. It isn't adoration. It's not trophies. It's not goals. It's nothing other than fulfillment. And fulfillment is work really hard. Okay? If it comes easy, it won't work. Work really hard to gain a set of skills that you care about, that matter to you. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Skill set that matters to you. And that skill set could be playing video games. That could be how you're going to reach and touch the world and elevate people and show them what's possible and entertain them. Absolutely great. You're doing something for other people. But you work real hard to gain a set of skills that matter to you, that are exciting to you. But they don't just serve you, they serve other people as well.
In life, there are two ways to lose. Way number one is to be weak, to lack grit, to be emotionally unstable, to be stubborn. That's where a lot of people fall on their face. They have these ideas in their head, and they're constantly looking for things to affirm that instead of doing what they need to do, which is constantly looking for ways that you're wrong. And once you start seeking out ways that you're wrong, because you're like, I've gotten this far in life being wrong, what happens if I stop being stubborn? I start looking for ways that I can learn more, that I can get rid of old ideas that aren't working for me and really move forward. And the thing that I think is probably the most foundational, they have a fixed mindset. Now, what is a fixed mindset? It means that you believe your talent and intelligence are inborn traits. You're born with it, and that's it. And life is about making the best of that, and we're going to debunk out of that. The second way that things can go wrong is they're chasing the wrong thing. I'm telling you right now, the punchline to life
is not success, it's not fame, it's not money, it's not accolades. It is very simple. It's brain chemistry, aka fulfillment. The only thing that really matters at the end of the day is how you feel about yourself when you are by yourself.
Where do you think all success starts with?
Well, the fast answer is mindset. Going back to the only belief that matters, you said it. It's the way you act is ultimately all that matters, and the way you act follows what you allow yourself to believe. Or maybe a better way to say it is what you choose to believe. So if you choose to believe that your energy and efforts will result in more skill set, then you will actually put energy and effort into getting that, which means you actually will get the skill set. But if you think, well, my talent and intelligence are fixed, so no matter how much I work, I'm never going to get better, right? I can't be a fast pig. And if you don't think that putting time and energy into it will yield anything, then you won't put time and energy into it, and you thusly won't get the skills. So, and if you don't have the skills, then you can't do the things other people can do. And so people just get stuck because they don't have the only belief that matters. So they don't put the time and energy. And so that's like where everything starts is, are you putting the time and energy into getting better, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that matters are results. And if you aren't getting the result that you want, then you're not making the right decision. Surrounding yourself with people who act in a way that's going to lead you to the goals that you want to get to that's it. I so believe that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. How could you not be? It's like you're going to be surrounded by those ideas. You're going to feel good about yourself because they're going to praise you for things. And if they're praising you for working your ass off, for admitting a mistake, that turns you into one kind of person. If they're praising you for smoking a J or for playing an extra hour of video games or for, hammering that Mountain Dew or jumping in on some cake with them, it's like, well, then you're going to go down that path because it's rad. And we are social creatures, man. And you want to please and inspire the people that you're around. And so change your circle, it will change everything about your life. And they've done crazy studies on this. If your friends on Facebook, not even your real life friends, if your friends on Facebook are obese, you're more likely to become obese. It's nuts. So you are going to morph depending on the ideas that you surround yourself with. And that's why I'm such a voracious reader, because I spend way more time with writers than I do even with my friends, just because, the sheer amount of time I dedicate to reading.
How do you start? How did you start? Like, do you have to have a certain mindset, or like, what are the steps in becoming successful?
Well, Michaela, I'm very glad that you said mindset. So, yes. I don't believe that people are born or, sort of meant to be anything. I think that we are, as humans, the ultimate adaptation machine. And there's no question we're not blank slates. So everybody's going to have certain things that they're good at, that they get what I call disproportionate returns. So for me, that's always been verbal ability. If I put time and energy into extemporaneous speaking, I'm going to get bigger rewards than maybe somebody else. But at the end of the day, I definitely was not a born entrepreneur. And so my goals mandated that I get good at business. And therefore, I put a bunch of time and energy into getting good at business. So for anybody out there who is a budding entrepreneur that it may be daunted by the idea that, I'm never going to be as good as a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk or, somebody who was born an entrepreneur. I will just say that my favorite quote, and I say this all the time now, is you can't make a racehorse out of a pig, but you can make a really fast pig. So even if you don't have natural entrepreneurial instincts, which I do not, you can still build a big and thriving business. So it really is about skill set. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to first figure out what is the reason that your company exists, what's its mission, its purpose, and then what skill set will you need in order to fill that. And I will just say at the highest level, if somebody wants to be a CEO type entrepreneur, you really have to have the ability to create momentum. Now, to me, momentum is all about not just moving quickly, it's about getting a large group of people pointed in the same direction and moving quickly. So there's going to be a lot of leadership stuff. There's going to be finance. There's going to be organizational structure, but it's all skill set. So if people are willing to march down the path of learning how to do that, that's going to be the first step. But I would just say, decide what your product is, take action immediately, make a lot of mistakes. Truly, mistakes are going to teach you what you need to learn. And as long as you're not paralyzed by the fact that you aren't yet good enough to do what you want to do, and that's going to be a process,
then you'll be fine. But you've got to get yourself moving. And obviously we could go on and on and on for hours. I'll leave it at that. And if there's a thread you want to pull on, I can go deeper on any of that stuff.
We're not doing discipline because our parents tell us to. We're doing discipline as a test to see if it works to get us towards our goal. Now, if you have historically struggled with putting discipline in place in your life, right now you're going to say, but Tom, I can't stick to discipline. So why would this work this time? That's when we realize one fundamental truth. This is a desire problem, masquerading as a discipline problem. Once you want your goal, the way that a drowning man wants his next breath, you will find discipline very easy to stick to. And so learning to build your desire for the goal that you have set for yourself, that becomes the incredibly important part. And the way to dial that desire up is to do a loop. And it goes like this. You're going to tell yourself that you're very excited about this goal. You're going to tell other people that you're very excited about this goal. And then you're going to embody the feeling, the amplitude that you want to feel when you think about that goal. Now, there's a mechanism in the human mind where it will justify the way that you act, no matter what. I won't waste time explaining some of the studies, but they are utterly fascinating about how even people with damaged areas of the brain will end up making up random ass stories because the brain abhors a lack of reason. So the brain will always and forever make up some story about why you're doing what you're doing. And so if you're responding hugely to something, oh my God, I'm so excited about doing this thing. Like I'm really amped up about it. And you're saying that to yourself and you're saying it to other people and you're saying it just like that. Then the brain goes, there must really be something here. We've got this elevated level of emotion. Amazing. Let's leverage that. And the brain doesn't say, let's leverage that. But the brain will say, okay, we've got this elevated level. You're going to leverage the fact that the brain says that to repeat it, to reinforce. And over time, you actually just will feel that heightened level of emotion. It's the way the brain works. What you repeat, you become. Neurons that fire together, wire together, things that you do frequently, including embodying that amplitude of emotion, right? Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made, talks about how it starts with the body and then the brain applies meaning to it. So if you're getting amped up, you're excited, the body is saying to the brain, yo, like we're amped, we're excited, we're doing these things. And the brain goes, oh, amazing. It must be because this really matters. And once you get the brain saying, hey, we're this excited because it matters, you're firing those neurons together, the excitement around this thing. So the excitement and the pursuit of that thing begin to mesh. And now we just over time have an actual desire to pull this off. Once we have the actual desire to pull this off, then all of a sudden putting that discipline in place becomes very easy. And that's the name of the game. You want to make it such that you want it badly enough that the discipline becomes easy to stick to because it's going to move you towards that thing that you really want. But you've got to learn to want that thing. Now, I'll give my typical disclaimer. This trick works incredibly well. Now, it only works on things you actually have a legitimate interest in. You couldn't get yourself excited about something that you truly just find stupid, but something where you actually do get a natural response. You actually are naturally into that thing. All we're doing is dialing it up, right? So if it's already a dial tone, there's nothing you can do to change the amplitude. But if the amplitude is already there and you get this reaction, we can really exaggerate that reaction and build that desire to get where we're going. Now, since that is the case, you need to be very careful what you apply this to because you can end up really wanting some stupid. I know from experience. I dialed the dial on my desire for money. I cranked that to a 20 and then spent 8.5 years pursuing money only to come out completely miserable. So don't waste your time dialing that up on something that isn't exciting and honorable. Meaning, again, honorable, it elevates you and other people, not just you. All right. Be careful what you decide to want, but know that it's very powerful. What steps can I take to bring my focus to the one thing I'm working on while blocking out all else? All right. So the real key is you've got to learn to compartmentalize. So what I do to begin my compartmentalization is I create a list of all the important things that I should be working on. I put that list in order. This is very important. getting good at prioritizing is an art form. It is critically important that you get good at that art form. And as you begin to break things down and put them in order, now you can tell yourself, hey, this is what I should be working on right now. So rather than trying to digest all the different things that have to be done, it's I'm focused on this one thing right now. And my only job right now is to focus on that thing. And so by not letting your mind wander, and this meditation is very good at bringing your focus back to the breath, which teaches you to bring your focus back to whatever. So I've got a lot of things, many things competing for my attention, but I know what my important things are. I'm working on the number one thing right now, let's say. And so, this is my entire world. And if I find myself wandering, I bring myself back. Now, part of the reason that I can invest so heavily in that is because I have the belief that that's the most effective way to work. So, since behaviors follow beliefs, you want to make sure that you put that belief in place, which is true, by the way, that you can do everything that you want to do, just not all of it at once. So everything has to be done sequentially. You can't do everything at the same time. And this is why you have to prioritize things out. So if we know that multitasking is actually a myth and that you can put people in brain scanners and what you're seeing, people who seem like they can multitask, what they're doing is called rapid switching. So they don't have what I have, which is high switching costs. When I get in a flow, man, I can go and go and go. But if I try to bounce back and forth between things, then I pay this high price and inefficiency between the switching costs of moving from switching from that task to this task. So I focus, I stay on one thing, I have them in order, I know what I'm working on, I remind myself that I only have one job in that moment, that is to work on that thing. I know that that's the most efficient way to work, and I know that I'm good at prioritizing things, so it becomes very easy, boom, boom, boom. And then you just hold yourself accountable to actually doing that. Practice makes perfect. You might have a difficult time in the beginning. Start meditating if you need to train yourself to come back to the breath over and over and over. And then you can just apply that to whatever you're working on. Come back to the project.
When I really think about what's the impact I want to have on the world, it's to show people that it does not matter where you are today. It only matters who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And it makes me sad for other people that they think that I have some natural talent and that they then let themselves off the hook because of that. Because let me tell you, when I was laying in bed 4 hours a day, every day in the morning, I didn't feel talented. I'll just tell you that. Like, I felt like a loser. Social media didn't exist. There was no way for me to reach out to people and connect with these thought leaders. You could get Tony Robbins tapes and books and stuff, and that's what I did. But it's like, man, that's a pretty far cry from where things are today. And so I felt so hopeless and so lost and just unsure of how I was going to make anything in my life. And so for people to be like, oh, well, easy for you to say you have XYZ talents. Like, really, truly, I do not. I had zero instincts as an entrepreneur coming into it. I was a buffoon, fell on my face, embarrassed myself. I was just stupid beyond all imagining.
When my voice coughs up, you're just not smart enough to pull this off. I say, all right, cool. That's a habit loop trigger to remind myself that all that really matters is skill acquisition. Have I reached the limit of my ability to acquire skills in the area that I need to move forward? If the answer is yes, go hire somebody. If the answer is no, then keep pushing my skill set because I don't value myself anymore for being smart. So realizing that I'm never going to be the smartest person that ever lived, sad but true, that it doesn't damage my sense of self-worth. And that becomes really important, though, when you think about, so I always try to tell people this, the point of life isn't money. As somebody who chased money for a very long time, I can assure you, won't touch how you feel about yourself as much as you think it might. So money's not going to help you. Fame isn't going to help you. Accolades aren't going to help you. None of that is going to change the one thing that matters, which is how do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? That matters. Your entire life is about that question. And once you stop valuing yourself for being smart and you value yourself for the sincere pursuit of greatness or excellence, or just translating that potential into actual skill set, then, look, you still have ups and downs in life. Things are going to be hard. There's going to be emotional turmoil, all that. But man, can you get back to center really, really fast.
When people are truly passionate about what they do, you just get a chemical rush. You get the energy. You become more resourceful. When someone who doesn't have passion because they don't really want to be there anyway, they will give up way easier because they're not having a good time. It's not in them. There's an awesome quote, I'm paraphrasing, but you'll get the idea. Don't try to change the world unless you seek change the way a man whose head is on fire seeks a pond. That is so true. Like, imagine what that would be like, right? Your head is literally on fire. Your ass is going to find some water. You will mash your head into the side of a rhino if you have to put it out, right? Like, you're putting it out. There is an immediacy to that need that gets humans to do incredible. If you want to change your life, you've got to tap into something that gives you that same feeling. For me, it's passion. And for the people that I've seen that have that passion, something is burning inside of them. Wow, man, you can do incredible stuff. Now the follow-up, I'll ask my own follow-up question. Well, how do you find that thing that you're passionate about? Since I know that's the next question that people ask. In you right now is the ember of something you don't want to admit to yourself. I promise you. And if you let me interview you long enough, I will get to that thing. And you will resist me trying to get to that thing for a very long time. First, you'll give me an answer. First, you're going to tell me that you want to be happy. That's useless. I need to know what makes you happy. I need to know how you plan to be happy. Okay? When people say generically that they want to be happy, they might as well tell me that they want a hit of meth, because they're just saying, I want a chemical state. Great. It's transient. It's going to go away. That's not very useful for you. Then, once we get past that you want to be happy, you're going to guess at some random things that make you happy. I want to be around my family, all that. Okay, well, let's put that in context. You're here seeking a job, or you're asking me a question about being an entrepreneur, and you're telling me that the thing that makes you happy is being with your family. I can't help you with that. In fact, I'm going to do the exact opposite. If I do my job, I'm pulling you all away from your family all the time. I'm trying to get you to commit so deeply to what we're trying to accomplish here that you're going to be absent just from a physical time perspective. And my only hope is that I light you on fire with so much passion that I send you back to your family full of joy, optimism, and a vision for you being able to do anything you want. Now that's infectious. Your family will love you for it, and they'll push you right back into my loving arms. But that's still not the truth. That's me feeding you answers. So once we get past that and we paint that picture, we finally get to I don't know, which is the truth that lies on top of the better truth that I'm going after, which is that thing underneath that you never thought you were able to acknowledge, that is the thing that you really want. And for me, it was finally admitting that I didn't have to wait for my family to make good choices. I could find a way to trick them into eating healthy. Once I honestly accepted that that's what I wanted, that I was not prepared to wait, that I was going to be a Jedi. I was going to walk up to somebody and I was going to get them to do things that was quite literally against their will. And I was going to make them want to do it. And it was going to be better for their life. And they were ultimately going to thank me. And I was going to do it without any force at all. I was going to do it by understanding them as a human being, by attaching myself to the things that were already working for me, their biological impulse to eat something that they crave, their biological impulse to soothe themselves with food. I knew, I've got all that. I know those levers are there. So now I just have to do the hard work of making something that's actually good for them, that has all of those taste pathways.
How have you structured your life? Do you have a morning routine? Like, how do you make time for things? How do you figure out what to do?
Well, like you, it is a bloodbath of the number of things that I want to do versus the number of things that I'm able to do. There's a gross discrepancy that I find emotionally distressing. And whenever I contemplate, like, whoa, you could actually look at my life and say, given how long each of the projects you care about takes, you're only going to get 7 more of them or whatever the number is done. That is heartbreaking in a way I can't explain. I try to turn away from that fact at all times. But what I do to get the most out of everything is, yes, I have a morning routine, but the morning routine starts the night before. So I'm doing everything I can to cognitively optimize. That's the first thing. So I get as much sleep as my body will take. I eat right. I exercise. I meditate. And that's basically my daily routine. And then maybe more importantly is I always have a list of the important things that I should be working on so that I'm never losing time to thinking about what should I be working on. So when one of those narrow windows open, I have in order exactly what I should be working on. I also have a vision for the company and my life, what I'm trying to accomplish. And so I know, well, these projects align with that. These projects do not. So I get offers all the time to, join the boards of companies or whatever that I'm sure are going to go on to be wildly lucrative. But they do not align with what I have stated I want to accomplish with my life. I know what the mission of my life is. I also know how I plan to sort of logistically accomplish that mission. And so I just filter every yes or no decision through. Does this move me towards my goals? And so one of the edicts in my life is I only do and believe that which moves me towards my goals. And I'm super ruthless about that. I know that what matters in life is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And that how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself is largely a function of your identity, what you believe to be true about who you are. And I know that it is critically important to earn credibility with yourself. And to earn credibility with yourself, when you say you're going to do something, you must do it. And if you don't, then you won't have credibility with yourself. You won't be able to respect yourself. And unfortunately, you probably won't have a lot of self-worth. One of the keys to developing self-worth is to recognize what you think is worthy and then to do that. And so doing that thing is going to become incredibly important. And that's why I have these rules in my life. That's why I focus on identity. Now, there's a statement I use to understand where my identity is, which is I'm the type of person that. I'm the type of person that when I say I'm going to get out of bed in 10 minutes or less, I actually get out of bed in 10 minutes or less. Now, that makes me feel good about myself. I'm the type of person that believes so much in what he's building that Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out, right? So you build these identity statements into your life that when you adhere to them, they make you feel good about who you are. They represent something in your value system that you believe to be true and worthy. And when you do that, and then you adhere to those things, then you're going to feel way better about yourself. And the desire to capture that feeling about who you are over and over and over becomes the very thing that propels you out of bed and gets you going and moving towards your dreams. So I cannot stress the importance of that enough. You want to set yourself up in the way that we were talking about earlier to make consistency the default answer. So we go to bed at the same time. We have our meal plan prepped out. So we don't have infinite ingredients in the house and a bunch of junk food. It's like we have the ingredients we need to make the food that we want to make. Our gym clothes are right next to the bed, all of that stuff. So we are setting ourselves up so that the right answer is the easiest answer. And the pantry is an easy way to explain that. If you don't know what you're going to eat, you don't have rules around what you eat, and you've got a bunch of junk food in the house, the odds of you sticking to your diet are basically zero because you don't have things laid out. You have not said, this is what I eat for breakfast, this is what I eat for lunch, this is what time I eat, this is what time I stop eating, all that stuff. Put rules in your life, buy according to that, live according to that, and then keep that list of the things that you know that you're supposed to be doing, okay? It's very important for you to make the right choice the easy choice. As you do that in multiple areas of your life and just start ruling things out, and this is, again, where bright lines really come in handy, you have to have things that you don't do as much as knowing what you do. And a lot of people get themselves in trouble because they don't have these bright lines. There aren't things that are off limits. So, for instance, Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. So you can imagine if I start goofing off, I start playing with the dog, I play video games, I would know immediately that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing because is it Monday through Friday? Yes. Am I working or working out? No. Cool. Then you're doing the wrong thing. And so by having these rules and writing them down can be really useful. Having these rules, writing them down, knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish and why you're trying to accomplish it. Because remember, you don't want to live the way that I'm describing unless it's in service of something you love, that you're excited about, that you believe in, that you want it. Because when you want that stuff, none of what I'm describing is a pain in the ass. You're excited to have these rules because they're actually allowing you to get done the thing that you want to get done. And the more you engage with it, the more exciting it is, the more your passions are ignited because you're getting good at something, you're making progress, and something we haven't talked about. Make sure your goals are exciting and honorable. They're exciting. You just want to do it. It's fun. This is an area that you like to be in.
And it's serving people in a way that elevates not only yourself, but other people. Okay? When you're working your ass off to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve other people in a way that's fun, now you've really got something. If you hear me talking about all this and I'm saying apply it to a thing that you hate, that doesn't make any sense. But when you apply it to something that you believe in, and you have to do that work, you have to decide to attach that meaning and purpose to that thing. But when you do that, now all of a sudden working hard and being a badass and seeing who you're becoming, that is amazing. As Tony Robbins says, progress is a foundational pillar to human happiness. Make progress. Make progress and you will feel amazing. Discipline isn't meant to make your life suck. As Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. The point of these rules and all of that is to know you're not going to quit. And you're not going to quit on something that you care about, something that matters to you, something that you're building towards that is improving your life and giving you a sense of joy. Unfortunately, joy is not easy to come by. All of the default answers are going to lead you somewhere negative. And the reason they lead you somewhere negative is because nature has hardwired you to work really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people. Nature has hardwired you for that. So if you fail to do that, you sit around just playing video games all day, and I love video games, but I don't sit around playing them all day. So if you're just sitting around staring at the wall, getting lost in a book, working out all day, and you never do anything that allows you to serve other people, I promise you, as much as you don't want this to be true, you will not feel fulfilled. Okay, nature only has two levers to pull, pleasure and pain. And if you're not doing the things that nature has deemed you need to do in order for you to live long enough to have kids that have kids, you will have a profound sense of dis-ease. And the only way to combat that is that formula for fulfillment, working really hard to gain a set of skills that allow you to serve not only yourself, because it should be fun for you, but also serve other people.
Now, what I find is the thing that people are always, if somebody's going to compliment me, the thing that they're going to compliment me on is, Tom, you always seem so prepared for your interviews. And my thing is like, the only way to win in life is to be more prepared than everybody else. If you want to win a gold medal in the Olympics, you actually have to be better at that sport than any other human being on planet Earth. That's business. Here's another one. This drives me nuts. People will say, Tom, because I always tell people, you have to work hard, smart, and long hours. And the inevitable question that I get is, Tom, if I work hard and smart, why do I need to work long hours? Because you're going against me, and I'm willing to do all three. So now what? There's no arbiter other than being better, right? If your game is to be stronger, you better be able to lift more weight. If your product solves XYZ problem, it better actually solve it, and better than anything else. So the presentation is, hey, look guys, I'm a nervous wreck. I hate giving presentations. But the one thing that I know about my product, it will outperform. And I invite you now to put me in whatever circumstance you need to, and I'm going to show you that it outperforms. This is why, trust me, if Albert would let me, I would stay here on this stage and answer every single question. I would let people push me and say, no, but Tom, you haven't solved my problem. I will keep going until we solve your problem. Now, I don't mind doing that, because it's first principles thinking. It applies to everything. I know my product is better. So I will just stand here and do this moment after moment after moment. When you get as confident in your product as I am in my ability to solve business problems, presenting will be very easy.
When you were making your transition into being successful, how did you combat the frustration of not being where you wanted to be? I'm never where I want to be. So I'm not where I want to be now. I'm not where I wanted to be when, people would have looked at it and said, oh my God, this is like the height of success. It was, one, I'm very careful to make sure that I'm only invested in the process. But because I'm trying to get somewhere, that intentionally I'm throwing way beyond where I'm at. I'm always thinking about what it's going to take to get to that next level. I'm never where I quote unquote want to be. but I don't trick myself into tying my value to achieving it. So I'm having fun. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm in it for the process. I'm in it for the learning. And I make sure that I'm handcrafting my life to optimize for joy and fulfillment. And so knowing that, I cannot guarantee the success. I cannot guarantee ever that anyone is ever going to be successful. But I can guarantee that you're going to struggle. Guarantee. 100%. Nobody avoids it. That's it. Everybody that ever tries to do anything, and even most of the people that don't try to do anything, are going to struggle profoundly with moving forward. It's just hard like that. And so if you know that the struggle is guaranteed, then you can't allow yourself to waste time to be tormented by the fact that you're not where you want to be. Make sure you're having fun in the struggle. Figuring out how to struggle well, that's the answer. When I was coming up, the question I was told to ask myself was, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? And what I realized is, since failure is the most obvious answer, that's probably not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, what would I do and love every day, even if I were failing? Now, failure is never going to be as fun as winning. I know that. But if you can do something that you believe in enough, and that the act of trying to get good at it is fun in and of itself, now you're on the right path. That's where you want to focus. Put your time and energy into making sure that you love the process. Don't worry about the outcome. Worry about the process, getting better, and loving that. Everything else will take care of itself. We're leading people into the unknown. We're leading them into whether it's business danger or emotional danger. And at the end of the day, sometimes people are going to get hurt, they're going to fail, whatever. They have to be resilient, they have to learn. But if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to be the human equivalent of a battle axe and get in there, try things, hard things, fail, practice, get stronger, learn, grow, then over time, despite the scars, you are more capable. You can do things other people can't do. I'm obsessed with that idea. I want to be able to do things other people cannot do. Now, when you can do things that other people cannot do, now you've got a real shot at whatever it is that you're trying to do. I want my name to echo through the annals of history. Now, I don't need other people to want that, but I want that. And I know for me to actually pull that off, which, by the way, my identity is not tied up in that. My self-esteem is not tied up in that. I could die completely unknown. What I value myself for is the pursuit, but I sincerely pursue that. And to sincerely pursue that, I have to become capable of things other people are not capable of. I have to be so good that I cannot be denied. That's my obsession. I love that. I want that for you guys, to both be willing to play at that level every day and yet not judge yourself if you're not there yet. That you only judge yourself by the sincere pursuit of something. That you show up every day playing to win, trying to be the best in the world at something that you care about, being unafraid to lead, to be out front, to fail people sometimes, to own it, to say, hey, I failed you. And this is why. And this is what I'm going to do next time to get a different result. And you will be shocked at how people will follow you more when you just own it. When you tell them what your plan is to get better and they see you on the front lines improving, people will fall in line. I all the time. But on balance, people see the rate at which I improve. They see that I have a goal and I'm a servant to that goal. And then I build skills based on what will take me to that goal. And because I win on balance more than I lose, people still follow. What are some action steps I can take right away to train my mind to not go after easy pleasures and happiness and instead seek the gratification that comes from fulfillment? All right. The great news is all you have to do is recognize the truth of the human condition. And the truth of the human condition is that chasing momentary happiness won't fulfill you. That's literally what I wanted to say. And I'm not, because we're talking about fulfillment, I won't use a just recursive loop, but that really is true. All of that stuff is so transient. What makes fulfillment interesting is that it is this far more stabilizing neurochemical state. So your brain is constantly checking in with you, making sure on a subconscious level that you're doing the things that you need to do to be of service to the group, to be of service to yourself, to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your family and your loved ones and your tribe, okay? So there's this subconscious record keeping going on, and that's exactly what's happening. That's why you sometimes will feel the unease in your body before consciously you know what's going on, and you feel it, there's something off. You need to take the time to identify what it is to be able to articulate it in a single, nice, crispy sentence so you can figure out exactly what it is that you need to do to move forward. Okay, now once you understand that that is just the nature of the game, that going after these momentary things will be exactly that. It's going to be momentary. It's going to fade. You're going to have a sense of unease. You're not going to be in the shape that you want emotionally. Once I know, going down that road is not going to leave me in the emotional state that I want to be in, then it's very easy to go, well, this one might be a little bit more difficult. It might take more sustained effort, but it yields these tremendous results. So the example that I always give is eating junk food. I love junk food. And truly love it, by the way. It gives me a drug-like high. It is so fun to eat sugary foods. The problem is that, especially as I get older, it hurts, literally, after the fact. My joints will hurt. I won't sleep as well. I wake up the next day, and it's just like I have like a slight hangover. That's literally what it feels like. And because I know that that's the outcome, it's like, well, on the times where I don't mind, and it's like, well, I'm going to, enjoy this drug-like thing for a minute. I'll sort of walk a fine line, have some fun here, suffer a little tomorrow, but on balance, maybe I come out a little bit ahead on the happiness. But if I try to do it 2 days in a row, forget it. 3 days in a row, it really starts to be like a real problem. So even over the holidays now, when I let myself off of, the hook with all of my normal disciplines and all of that, even then now, I keep myself in check just because I don't like the way that it feels. So once you understand, I can do this thing over here and feel really good, or I can do this thing over here, it's very momentary, it's very transient, it doesn't last, I kind of, I'm not where I want to be, and I begin to ask myself questions like, what am I doing with my life? So just knowing that, to me, fulfillment is much longer in duration. It's much more resilient. I can be fulfilled even when things are hard, even when things aren't going my way, even when it's difficult. In fact, the fulfillment I get from contributing to the group is the very thing that inoculates me from the hard times being able to knock me all the way down. Because on those moments where you're just beleaguered and you're getting it from all sides and it just seems like everything is crashing on you at once, in those moments, you're going to cling to what you're doing to help other people. And nature will ensure that that is going to make you feel way, way better. You've got to instill in your mind that the average human is capable of unbelievable improvement. That's the thing that's my superpower. I don't think I'm special. I just realized in looking at the science that humans actually are capable of this incredible amount of change. It is the strategy that our species took to be able to pass knowledge on through culture rather than having to have everything be instincts. And in having that layer where we can drink in the culture and read books and learn from other people, and even now we're all learning from things that people thought thousands of years ago and wrote down, like, it's insane. It travels through to you, and all of that wisdom stored in culture, so that as your parents are teaching you things, they're actually encapsulating a ton of the wisdom that is endured, whether it's endured from religion or books or whatever. Like, you're bathed in a culture that is giving you all of this incredible information. And so recognizing how powerful and potent that is incredibly meaningful. But you have to understand that you have to allow yourself to believe that you can learn from that culture in the same way that everybody else can. And that's what you're designed to do. Now, for me, that completely gave me the confidence, and I put confidence in air quotes because it's not like I believe something specific about myself. I just believed that the human animal is capable of this extraordinary change. And so now I just needed to point myself in that direction. Now, this is the key. Once I realized that I could get better at anything, it dawned on me that how I spend my time is a spiritual consideration. And I didn't want to die with potential that I failed to turn into skill set. That to me, that speaks to me. How much of my potential can I actually turn into skill set and get good at this stuff and push and grow and improve? Like that to me is just this incredibly intoxicating loop. So for me, the discipline, the confidence, all of that comes from recognizing the human animal. Nothing special about me. The human animal is capable of extraordinary change. I'm going to have to put time and energy into doing it, but I'm capable of getting this change. Therefore, I can do anything I set my mind to. Therefore, it really matters what I choose to spend my time on. Therefore, I want to put structure and discipline in my life so that I can move forward on things that excite me, that matter to me, because I really can have this big, crazy dream that I'm thinking of. So my discipline is really born of my desire to have that thing, coupled with my belief that I can actually get there. Desire and belief. Get those two things right, and the discipline will take care of itself.
Everyone takes the limits of their own vision for the limits of the world. Arthur Schopenhauer. There is all around you right now the reflections of your world belief. They're so ever present that you don't even see them. All the assumption that you've made about the world, the things that are possible, what you're capable of, who you are, the very definition of what it means to be alive, all of it is completely invisible. And you're mistaking what you have for what could be. And once you break free of that, once you understand that right now you're a moment in time and that you have latent potential, and that latent potential can be expressed in the form of skills, that you can get good at things, that you can develop yourself in any direction, that brain plasticity alone is one of the greatest weapons that you're not using. But you have to move beyond what you can perceive today. You have to begin to look beyond that and see that which doesn't yet exist. And you have to remember that many of the things that are holding you down are rules that you don't even realize are rules. And as General Douglas MacArthur said, you're remembered for the rules you break. And right now, you're following rules that you don't even realize exist. And some of those rules are simply what is okay to dream. But I'm here to tell you, the power is in recognizing that you can do it. The power is in having the arrogance of belief. The power is in understanding that you, yes, you are going to be capable of something simply because you are willing to believe in yourself. And that's the thing, it's a willingness to believe in yourself. No one's going to give it to you. Even the people that love you, they're not going to give you that. They are incapable of giving it to you. People cannot see past their limitations, and they take them for truth. People actually believe the things that have stopped them will forever not only stop them, but they will stop other people. How can they hope to give you anything but limitation? So if you know that even the people that love you, what they're handing you is limitation with the best of intentions, with all the love in the world, how are you going to break out of that? How are you going to break past those rules? How are you going to fight the anxiety that inevitably comes your way when you think about going against the grain? But my friends, until you can do that, you can never get beyond the bullshit that limits you. If people said gravity is what it is, we never would have reached escape velocity. And yet, as a species, we have been able to hurl a rocket into space, get it outside of gravity, take us to other planets. That is real only because somebody said, I refuse to be held down by the most obvious rule that we have, the one that everybody says is beyond reproach, and that is gravity. But even gravity will break under the weight of a superior will. So recognize, as Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Can you be content to be thought foolish and stupid? Or do you allow yourself to be caged, to be hemmed in by what other people think? And look, I get it. I understand the sting of contempt. I understand how much it sucks when someone you respect doesn't respect you. But you cannot be anything more than their captive if you think about what they think about you. If you let yourself be defined by what other people perceive of as you, then you will forever be limited by what they give you permission to do. And I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I said, when I'm an adult, I will never be told what to do again. I will never be held back by somebody else. I will define myself. I will figure out what I need to do, and I will do it. And at the end of the day, that is it. My goals drive my behavior. I am not held back by what other people think about me, no matter how intoxicating it is to be loved. You have to decide what you want more. Do you want to be you, or do you want to be someone else's reflection of you?
Now, a big thing that you can do in terms of figuring out how to take control of your path and steer yourself towards your goals is getting really good at goal setting, making sure that you use the process of building desire to figure out how to increase your desire for something, because steering yourself towards your goals is really about wanting something so badly that you're willing to try over and over and over again in order to make progress. Because the reality is, as Winston Churchill said, success is the ability to go from failure to failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. Now, that requires that you really want something, that you're able to read yourself to know if you want that thing badly enough that you're going to stick with it, because if you don't, one of two things is true. Thing number one, either you have chosen the wrong thing, but a lot of people use that excuse over and over and over. As Angela Duckworth says in her book, Grit, if you find yourself doing that 3 times or more, odds are you have a grit problem, you have a tenacity problem, you're not sticking with it, you're not pushing through the boredom and the pain, which are inevitable if you want to get good enough to be extraordinary at something. So we need to set these goals that meet 2 criteria. They are exciting to you, you want them very badly, you've invested time and energy into wanting that thing. And it needs to be based on something real. It's very hard to turn an ember into a raging inferno when there was no real ember there to begin with. So it needs to be something that is legitimately interesting to you, and then you're going to fan those flames and really build emotional importance and emotional resonance around this thing. Then the second part of any goal, it should be honorable, meaning that pursuing it is going to allow you to serve not only yourself, but other people. Now, the great news is that because we are a social creature, the more that you do that, the more that you're pursuing something that allows you to elevate yourself, yes, but other people, most importantly. Now, Mother Nature has just put a reward into your brain. When you do that, I promise you will feel better. I promise it is just the way that we're wired. When you serve other people, you will feel better. Serve other people and you will feel better. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be Mother Teresa and that you can't be doing things for yourself. Again, the goal should be exciting and honorable. But once you're doing something that you really care about and you are acquiring a set of skills that matter to you, that you just want to get good at, but they are very much on purpose, allowing you to help other people, now all of a sudden you get in this feedback loop of the more you engage, the harder you work, the more skill set you get. This really becomes a passion, because a part of passion, in fact, I don't believe something becomes a passion unless it's reciprocated by the people that you serve. And so when you're doing something that really allows you to light other people on fire, and look, that could be building toy models in your house. But if nobody ever gets to enjoy those toy models, the odds of that really becoming this self-reinforcing behavior are very slim. We all want to create something that we share with somebody else and it gets appreciated by them. It brings a smile to their face. And it could be that simple. Maybe what you create just makes other people happy. But in doing that, you connect to other people. You're elevating other people. You're engaging. You're being a social creature. You're contributing to the group. And in contributing to the group, now it can become a passion because you're getting the feedback that you need to go back and do all the boring, painful stuff that true mastery requires. And if you want to achieve your goals, mastery and desire are going to be the 2 most critical components next to clarity.
I think all of us have a desire to be looked at favorably, especially by the people that we care about, that we respect. But you have to, like Viktor Frankl said, understand that there's a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, you have the ability to choose something as a way of reacting that isn't your emotions dictating that. So you're gonna have an emotional reaction. When you do something and people disapprove, almost certainly happens for me, you're going to feel that sting of like, oh, that sucks. I really wanted people to be behind me. I really want people to cheer. I really want people to clap for me. That's amazing. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to say, what is my goal and what reaction to this stimulus actually moves me towards my goal? And that needs to be the thing that overrides everything else. So step 1 is having that clear goal, knowing what you're trying to accomplish. And then step 2 is the ability to assess whether or not your emotion that, which is the subconscious speaking to your conscious mind. So if you think of emotions as the subconscious, which processes data in a faster and vaster, as they say, fashion, meaning it can process a whole lot of information that your conscious mind would not be able to process through rapidly, and it can do it much more quickly. So it coughs up, instead of speaking in the language of that little voice you actually hear articulating words in your head, it's coughing up an emotion. So it's all of that experience, all of the things that our brain does to make sure that we protect ourselves, that we don't get ostracized by the group, which makes sense in an evolutionary context, but not so much in a modern context. That's why the subconscious is speaking in emotion. But you can take that emotion and say, hey, this doesn't make sense for my goal, feeling badly about myself, worrying about what other people think about me. It's only going to slow me down. It's only going to hold me back. I need to be able to trust my instincts, which I have trained, and now move towards what my goals demand. And so when you're able to do that, when you're able to read the emotion, check to see if there's a lesson to be learned, but if there's in wallowing in that emotion, if it's going to move you away from your goals, then you set that to the side. And practicing that and getting good at that and filtering everything to your goal is how ultimately you're not going to spend a lot of time caring about what other people think. And so the savior for me has been the belief and the part of my identity which says I only do and believe that which moves me towards my goals. So obsessing over negative thoughts about what other people think doesn't, and so I just let it go and move on. And it literally comes down to what you allow yourself to think about. So just stop yourself using cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, stop yourself from thinking about what other people think.
Chaos can be very difficult to deal with, and it requires a lot of emotional management, and you've got to be able to do many things. Quite frankly, it is going to be a whole grab bag of tricks, my friends, for you to get through and get on the other side of that chaos. All right, first things first, meditation is going to be huge, okay? Just at a physiological level, you've got to get that background radiation down to zero. Now, this can be very difficult when you're in the middle of something and you really feel like you're fighting for your life, but you need to make time for that. This is a physiological process. By getting into that calm and creative state, you're going to find answers that you otherwise wouldn't see. So we need to get out of that panic mode and into calm, creative problem solving. Now, remember, action cures all. So we've got this fulfillment thing that we're chasing. We've got the fulfillment formula. We know exactly what we need to do. We're in the middle of the chaos. And the thing that's going to solve for that, meditation, so we're thinking calmly and clearly, but also having a plan of attack and then going after it. So there's been really cool studies done by Andrew Huberman and other people about how lateral eye movement can actually pull you out of that stressed and anxious state, because what it's doing is it's mimicking you moving forward. And moving forward on these evolutionary time frames, we've been rewarded for that because it means that you're confronting your problem. You're working hard. You're dealing with the saber-toothed tiger, the warring tribe, the just need to go out and hunt, whatever. You're dealing with it. And since nature only has pleasure and pain, if you're dealing with it, nature's going to make sure to give you some pleasure on that. And conversely, if you're trying to hide from it, that's not going to feel great, and you're going to really spiral. It is crazy to me how taking action and getting into problem-solving mode immediately shifts me out of anxiety. It is absolutely profound. So that's going to be a big part of this. And when you're doing that in the context of the fulfillment formula, now you know that this is going to be something you're working really hard to gain that set of skills that serve not only yourself but other people. So you're thinking about other people. You're thinking about service. And that has a way of really helping you get through the chaos because it's giving you the emotional energy to have the stamina to fight through to get to the other side. And as I think it was Churchill that said, if you're going through hell, keep going. But keep going armed with meaning and purpose around how you're contributing to the group, around getting these skills, around being in problem-solving mode, and around taking action, because that is going to be the thing that cures all. And then don't forget, sleep hygiene, very important. Meditation, important. Keep your diet right. Don't tell yourself a negative story. Don't allow yourself to loop in defeat. Find people that can elevate you. Find people that will, in a very real, skills-based way, help you see the path forward and help you hold on to the only belief that matters, that you can figure this out.
If you have a $1 million business, you want to get it to 10 million. What's the best way to distribute your time between marketing, training your employees, developing yourself?
All right, everybody, what does this start with?
Clarity of your goal. So what's your goal?
$10 million a year.
That's just money. How are you going to get there? Why are we just chasing money?
Yes.
Sell drugs. You might go to jail, but damn, on the way up, baby, you can make some money. The next best thing, crypto, then flipping NFTs, but you can go broke real fast doing that. But damn, if you hit, I made $100,000 in 48 hours on a single NFT that I bought for $250. Not financial advice, let me tell you. But those are really dumb ways. Crypto's not dumb. But those are like really sort of roll the dice, bet it all on black ways. If all you care about is money, it will send you down a very dark path that I'm not super helpful at. Once you have a goal and there's like a thing behind you, but even setting all that aside, I will just say you have to be in an industry where the upside potential is big enough that you could actually solve a problem. Remember, this starts with I'm solving a problem for somebody who knows they need that problem solved, and then I'm going to go solve it better than anybody else. That's the real answer. But if I could change your life, because this will matter so much. Business is a game of attrition. Most people give up. Why do they give up? Because hard things suck. So, when you have a hard thing, who has read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl? Is that really it? And scream that out if you've read it. Okay, this is the most important thing I will say to you, literally, in this whole talk. Every single person in this room, if you were serious about enjoying your life, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It is about a guy who survived the concentration camps. He happened to be a neuroscientist, and what he realized was you could predict when someone would die within 72 hours because they would lose a sense of meaning and purpose. Now, if you can survive Auschwitz on meaning and purpose alone, let me tell you how important meaning and purpose is in a business. Because as hard as building a business has been, it's no Auschwitz. So trust me when I say meaning and purpose will get you through. When I was building Quest, it was all about saving my mom and my sister. That was what I attached to it. And so when I was there at 2 a.m. on a Friday night with bloody knuckles fixing a piece of equipment that I did not want to be fixing, I would think of my mom and my sister. I would not think of $10 million because nature has compelled me to think of them in a way, and I get an emotional reward I won't get from anything else. So even if you're just going to chase the 10 million, make it about your kids, giving them a better life or something. But think about that other something.
What was the greatest fear in the last 5 years that you had to overcome that has now become a skill or a superpower for you?
I think the only thing that I've sort of thought through like that is I feel like Kobe Bryant when he split from Shaq. And it was like he obviously had won a championship with Shaq, but could he win a championship on his own? Mm-hmm. And so my last company was so successful, but huge. I did it with two partners. And so now to have a new partner in Lisa, it's like, okay, can I also lead this team to a championship? And so that drives me in a way that I find so fun of like, okay, cool. Hey, as a part of that group, smashed it. But can I do it over here?
Yeah.
So that like reinvention, trying things and letting myself feel the weight of like, hey, you gotta prove it, buddy. Like,
right.
You had a big success once. Can you do it again?
Wow.
And so doing that under new circumstances, to me, like, I love that shit. Like, I love the excitement of, can I? Will he? Won't he? So that's a lot of fun. But that's something that I think if I thought about the world differently, so I don't value myself for achieving it, so whether I achieve it or not is irrelevant, but showing up every day and sincerely pursuing it is what I value myself for. And I like to feel that sort of weight of like, hey, maybe you won't, maybe you're gonna fail. Maybe like it was only you as a part of this collective. Hey, you did a great job there. Or maybe it was just that moment in time. Yeah. Like you rode a wave. But like over here, can you create something from scratch? Can you repeat it? That it's not. I don't live in a space of letting that be a fear.
Sure.
But it's like it's a cousin of that feeling. I think
it's a stepsister or something. Yeah.
My average week is probably 90 hours, 85 to 90 hours in my average. I routinely pop over 100 if something really has to get done. The key is to structure your life in such a way that the work is joyful. So the reason that so when my wife and I exited our last company, we never needed to work again, ever. I mean, just never had to think about money again. And we thought, okay, what we want to do though is really do something that gives us meaning and significance. So let's build something. If we're going to work when we don't have to, let's make sure that what we build is something that fills us in ways that we can't explain. And for me, storytelling has always been just a calling. I love it so much. And I cannot tell you how much I love writing. So Jeff Bezos very aptly said that in any job, no matter how much you love it, there's a certain amount of overhead, things that you don't like doing. So Monday through Friday, I'm doing my overhead. When I work on the weekends, with precious few exceptions, it's never overhead. It's writing, it's editing a story, it's looking at concept art, it's, doing things that have to be done for the business, but also in and of themselves, I find so energizing and exciting that it's arguably the best way that I could spend. That's why I do it during my selfish time. So my wife and I take selfish time. She draws. She's a world-class artist, absolutely breathtaking. And I will write or do something around the stories. And that to me is incredible. So it's a lot of hours for work, but like they say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So that's how I'm able to hit the kind of crazy numbers that I hit, or the number of books that I read. It's like, I love that. It lights me on fire. I'm excited to do it. I'm not trudging through it.
And as Joseph Campbell said, people say what we're all seeking is a meaning for life, but I don't think that's what we're really seeking. I think what we're seeking is the experience of truly being alive. And that's it. That's the juice. Figuring out that thing that makes you come alive. It isn't keeping up with the Joneses. It isn't how much you're getting paid. It isn't anything other than for you, something very specific. It will be different for everyone, but for you, find that thing that makes you come alive. Focus on it. Think about it. Put your time and attention there. Shift away from seeing the pain in the opera and instead seeing the wonderment in it all, seeing the glory that is just everything around you, the opportunities, the fact that you're alive. Once you can see that those basic things that you take for granted, that you can breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, all of that stuff, once you start seeing how miraculous it really is, once you start seeing how we're connected to each other, once you understand that the name of the game isn't wealth, it isn't fame, it isn't ambition or success, it's neurochemistry. It's feeling a certain way. It's finding fulfillment in your life. Once you realize that, you'll understand this is a game of attention, and you entirely control what you focus on. So choose very wisely, my friends, because your life will literally become the summation of the things that you look at.
How do you know when it's time to refuel and choose self-care instead of continuing to grind? Physiological self-awareness is critical. I hear a lot of talk about people developing psychological self-awareness, so understanding what you're good at, what you want to do, all of those things, incredibly useful. But understanding how to read your body may be even more important than that. So Lisa Feldman Barrett's book, How Emotions Are Made, detail the way that emotions are far more of a bottom-up phenomenon, meaning they come from your body. It isn't you thinking about something and then creating the emotion down. That does happen. And of course, you can spiral yourself out of control simply by thinking. But usually what begins this thinking process is a sense of unease, right? Anxiety is a bodily feeling, oftentimes disconnected from what you're thinking. So figuring out, why do I have this sense? Being able to process it consciously, we can pull it up into our conscious mind and think through it with words and logic. But oftentimes it's starting with that like, oh man, I don't feel good about this and I don't know why. So this is the fascinating thing about drugs, is drugs can either eliminate or change the bodily sensation, which then changes the story that you're telling yourself about the sensation. Now, this isn't an advertisement for drugs. It's to get you to understand that it can be risky to sever the sense of body from what you're telling yourself about it. So you want your body to give you this description of what is going on, but then as you take conscious control of that to develop that self-awareness around physiologically what's happening, you need to understand why you're feeling the way that you feel. And so developing that to get a sense of whether this is a time to keep pushing through, or whether this is like one of those moments where you actually really do need to step back. It's the difference between sore muscles from, a nice hard workout and a torn muscle or damaged joint from an injury. And the same thing is true when you're thinking about how hard to work, how hard to push yourself. You need to figure out this fatigue that I'm feeling, this unease, this anxiety, this stress. Is this a natural part of pushing through the difficulties of this project? Or is something else going on? This is now really starting to cave in on me. And what I need to do now is take a step back, meditate, journal, hug my significant other, pet my dog, cuddle my kids, whatever the case may be, go for a run. But doing something that slows you down, lets you take a deep breath. And the only way to figure that out is to be able to interpret the feelings that your body's giving you into conscious thought. Okay? And getting good at that loop is very, very important. And it takes practice. It takes understanding what the body is communicating, why it's communicating it, what impacts it, like what you eat and drink has a huge impact on what your gut is telling you. And then your brain tries to make sense of it. And it doesn't always go, oh, I'm feeling anxious because, in my case, I was drinking a 0-calorie Monster, which, much to my dismay, because I absolutely love them, make me feel anxious. And so getting an understanding of that, seeing that pattern was actually quite transformational, because I stopped drinking them and my anxiety levels plummeted by like 70%. It's pretty crazy. Didn't take me to zero, but it made it a phenomenon that was easily manageable through meditation. So this is where you have to develop that awareness, that pattern recognition, and be able to say, oh, I feel this way because of XYZ thing happening at work or with my spouse or with food that I'm consuming. So be very thoughtful about that. And that will then help you determine whether we need self-care or we just need to push through. The reality is that those who can delay eating the marshmallow the longest do the best, because you're right. Delaying gratification is an absolute superpower. Now, one of the most extraordinary experiments was done at Stanford University. It's called the marshmallow experiment. There's a whole book written on this, utterly fascinating. They followed the participants in this study for like 25 years. Absolutely incredible. They bring these kids into a room. They give them a marshmallow. And they say, hey, you can eat the marshmallow now if you want. But if you wait until I come back, then I'll give you 2 marshmallows. So it's basically double your money. It's not going to be that long. Now, what the kid doesn't know is that the researcher isn't coming back. And they just want to see how long the kid is going to wait until they eat it. They do eventually come back, but they leave them really to struggle for quite some time. And what they found was the kids that could come up with games where they're singing to themselves, not looking at the marshmallow, whatever, the kids that were able to delay the gratification the longest ended up doing the best. They got the best grades, they got the highest paying jobs, they had the most successful relationships. Now, the reason that works is in any one moment, if you're just operating around optimizing for momentary mind states, brain states, neurochemical states, then you're always going to be in short-term thinking. You're always going to get short-term results. If, however, you have this goal that excites you and is honorable, and you're able to push through all the boring stuff and all of that, then what you get is a set of skills that allow you to do things other people can't do. And as we established in the last question, if you can do things other people can't do, that is by its very nature success. And you will be rewarded in a way that other people will not be rewarded because they can't do the things you do. And as long as the things that you do are valued by society, then you are always going to do very well. But that ultimately is the key. You have to be able to delay gratification. Now, for me, understanding that was the nature of things, that if I can delay my momentary wishes for something longer term, then I could get these very different results that separated me from other people. And because I'm excited about what I'm pursuing, I use that excitement as my trick to stay focused when things get boring. And I've said many times that boredom kills more entrepreneurs than failure. So everyone will tell you that fear of failure is what stops people, and that is a huge deal. But honestly, like, I think it's the fact that people don't want the outcome badly enough to fight through all the boring, painful stuff that you have to go through to get to the other side to ultimately be successful. So make sure that you are hyped up on your goal. If you're not, then you're not going to be willing to go through all the difficult things. Where should a person start with improving their self-care if they have low self-esteem? Do you think leveraging one can directly improve the other? Okay. You've really got two issues here, but they are inextricably linked. You've got biology, you've got psychology. The self-care is largely going to be a question of biology, getting the sleep, eating a diet that at a cellular level is serving us, at a microbiome level is helping us, at a cognition level is helping us, right? Setting us up for success. Meditating, making sure that we get that background stress and anxiety radiation down to zero, huge in terms of getting you into a calm and creative space so that you can think through difficult problems. All of these things are what you're going to need to do if you want to do well in your life. Now, self-esteem is a whole nother issue. Self-esteem has everything to do with what you think about yourself when you're by yourself. Now, you have to earn your way to that. And so the key to earning your way to that is to figure out what is your value system. What do you value? What do you think is the way that people should be spending their time and their energies? And then are you doing things in accordance with that? And then there are things that are baked in that are innate. So there are these innate drivers given to us by evolution, hard work, the desire to contribute to the group, meaning and purpose, deep connection with other people that we love, okay? You have that imperative. There is nothing that you can do to shake that imperative. And so understanding how it works and understanding how you need to meet the needs of that if you want to be fulfilled and be joyful is critically important. So as you go about teasing out whether you have a self-care issue, a biological issue, a self-esteem issue, something that is either we're not addressing the imperatives to contribute, which is sort of the easiest one to go to, or we've let the self-care get so out of whack, we're not sleeping, we're not doing all of those things, that it's really beginning to debilitate us from doing the things that we need to do in order to build up our self-esteem. Now, your self-esteem is really built around the framework of congruence. I said I was going to do it and I'm going to do it. So that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. And then whether that's a promise you make to yourself or to somebody else. And then the fulfillment formula, which is to work really hard to gain a set of skills that are unique to you and matter to you, or exciting to you, and that they serve not only yourself but other people. And so if you're doing that, working really hard to get exceptional at something that matters, that the world cares about, and that you love, and then you contribute in a way that elevates you and other people, that's the game of fulfillment. And so if you're doing that, I think you will find that that will take care of self-esteem. But if you're not doing that, if you're not finding ways to contribute to the group, if you're not progressing in your life, then you're going to really struggle with that. So you do the self-care to make sure that you can actually build the self-esteem by contributing in that way. And then those two things work wonderfully together, but you have to recognize that they really are two separate issues and they both need to be addressed.
Albert Einstein said, "Everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid." And that's what confuses people. People believe that they're dumb because they're not finding their path. They're not defining things based on what excites them and what they want to live with every day. They're just looking to what the outside world says is good. And I think it's incredible that there are other people doing things that are so extraordinary that we aspire to be like that. But you have to understand the difference between being like someone and trying to actually be them. So if what inspires you is that somebody works hard, work hard. If what inspires you is that somebody gets up every time they fail, get up every time you fail. If what you like is that they are themselves with all their weird eccentricities and quirks, then be true to your eccentricities and quirks, but don't try to embody their eccentricities and quirks. That's the surest way to become the fish that thinks it's stupid because it's being judged by trying to climb a tree.
How do I stop myself from beating myself up for trying to do something that failed miserably and then continuing to overthink everything about what happened? Thank you so much for any advice and assistance that you can provide. Okay, here is how to conceptualize failure and the disappointment that goes along with it. Once you understand that what the human animal is designed to do is learn, then you have to ask yourself, if what has made the human animal the most apex of apex predators the world has ever seen, the most capable of completely changing its environment, what is it that allows them to learn fast? And the answer is failure. Now, the reason that failure is truly useful, and I'm not just saying that to make you or myself feel better. In fact, I wish that it wasn't the way to learn the fastest. But the reality is, the reason that it works so well is that when you fail, you trigger areas of the brain that are focused on memory and focus. So you've got the memory side, so you're going to remember this. You've got the pain. This does not feel good. I do not want to go through this again. So you've got that, which heightens your emotions, which makes you more likely to remember this thing moving forward. And then it also narrows your attention. So you're really looking at, why did this go wrong? And when you have this sense of, I never want to repeat this, and you're looking very closely at, why did this go wrong? Now, all of a sudden, failures, because of what it does to your brain, and quite frankly, because you're in the mix, you're trying things, and we learn better from doing than from reading about it or hearing about it. So failures suddenly become the most information-rich data stream on planet Earth, heightens your likelihood of remembering, and it focuses you in on exactly what's the problem. So now, even though failing sucks, part of what makes it valuable is that it sucks. In fact, it may suck in order to make it valuable. Let that sink in. That nature went, when this happens, in order for this to be useful for this animal, for this evolutionary creature, I need to make sure that it becomes advantageous, so that as they make mistakes, assuming that they don't get eaten by a lion, I want to make sure that they don't put themselves in that position again. And so we have to learn from some method. And the method that gets us moving, taking action, trying things, feeling the pain, focusing, that's going to be the thing that we're going to get the most takeaways from. So now, as you reframe what failure is not proof that you're a loser. Failure is the process by which you become better. Okay? Failure is not the process that reveals that you're a loser. Failure is the process by which you become better. That is the name of failure. So now, when you fail, why would you beat yourself up over it? It's the nature of progress itself. There is no way to get better without failing. It's the fastest way. It is the most effective way. It is necessary. You have to do it. And by the way, for you to have failed at something, you showed the courage to try it. So instead of wasting time beating yourself up over the fact that something went wrong, we're going to say, that's the nature of progress. We have to try something. It's not going to work as well as we want it to, or I may fall flat on my face. I may outright embarrass myself. And if I let that break me, I will fail to learn the lesson. But if I do what nature is compelling me to do, and I focus on what went wrong, why did this happen? Because I never want to go through this again. You stack enough of those, what went wrong? I never want to go through this again. Enough of those together, and you actually get good. And translating potential into skill set is the name of the game. And you will never do that more efficiently than you will through failure and mistakes. So allowing yourself to wallow in disappointment doesn't make any sense. It's the learning process. This is what you have to do in order to get good. So there's no reason to spend a lot of time being disappointed. You brush yourself off, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you get going.
So as Scott Belsky said, when 99% of the people doubt your idea, you're either gravely wrong or about to make history. And that's the terrifying part. You're not going to know. You're not going to know the difference. But if you're chasing somebody else's path, if your whole game is emulation, if your whole game is to mimic that which inspires you, you will never find the thing that's real about you. And look, I don't know about you, but I can be wrong. I can be gravely wrong. I can have people think me an idiot and try something and fail as long as it was true to me. Because then the lesson that I'm going to learn is going to apply. It's going to take me another step closer to actually being the person that I want to become, that I want to live with every day. But I can't be that if I don't understand who I want to be? So look inward, identify your path, identify what excites you, and go after it as if your life depends on it. Because in truth, it does.
You can choose to believe in luck. You can choose to believe that you don't have control, that you don't have agency, that the world is happening to you. Or you can choose to recognize that cause and effect exists, that if you want to get better at something, you need to put in the work, that if you want to get stronger, you need to lift heavier weights, that you can either ask for stronger shoulders to carry a bigger load, or you can ask for a lighter load. The choice is yours, but at the end of the day, if you want those strong shoulders, they're yours to build. You've got to make those choices. You've got to understand the cause and effect. You've got to understand that your life right now is the exact reflection of your choices. Your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hateful, the painful, the joyful, the beautiful, everything in your life is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of the things you've decided to do. It's a reflection of the things you've decided not to do. It's the story you tell yourself about yourself, what you believe is capable. All of those things, they're the choices that you're making every day, and at any time you can choose to make a different choice. And as Bruce Lee said, if you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond them. Even in the statement, you can see him making the choice about what to believe by saying that there are no limits, by taking something that other people perceive as a limit, as something that's stopping him, and saying that's not, it's a plateau, it's something that I can push through. And you see what he holds himself accountable to. It's not okay to stay at a plateau. It's okay to have one. Everybody has them. They happen. It's a natural part of the course of getting better, but it is not okay to stay there. And that is a choice. That's not something anyone can hand you. It's something you have to believe to the core of your soul that it is not okay to stay in a plateau. And it's that that's going to push you through. It's that that's going to make you get up and keep going. But first, you have to recognize that life is cause and effect. You have to recognize that that choice is a knock-on effect. You have to recognize that him merely saying those words out loud have a cause and effect. They change the course of his life, the expectations that other people have of him, expectations that he has of himself. And because he understands that he can control the outside world by first controlling what's inside, by changing his belief system to match what he wants to accomplish, he's then able to accomplish. What he did in his life had nothing to do with luck. It had everything to do with the demands that he made on himself. It had to do with when he got in a motorcycle accident and people told him he would never walk again. Not only did he walk again, all of the major accomplishments that we think about of being that man, they all came after. They came after he was told he was never going to walk. It came after he was told that he was never going to be able to do martial arts. But he did it. He did the grueling work of getting better. He understood cause and effect. He understood that if he chose to believe that he could never do it, that he'd never be able to do it. But that if he chose to believe that by working out he could get stronger and get better and get back to it, that he could. And that's what he did. So now ask yourself, is your life dictated by luck or cause and effect? Are you in control? Or is it somebody else? Is someone else in control? Or is it you? And if it's you, go build the life that you want, because there's nothing stopping you but you.
As Mark Twain said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. That's something I want all of you guys to really embody and really think about and really put at the core of your existence. That step number one to accomplishing whatever it is that you want to do is actually getting started. And I understand, I know the thing that holds you back. I know the thing that is absolutely paralyzing for people is you don't think that you have what it takes to go out and be good. And rather than face that difficult, brutal process of growing and getting better, and quite frankly, facing your inadequacies, it's easier just to sit back. But as John Wooden said, never let what you cannot do interfere with what you can. There is something right now that you're capable of. There is an innate skill inside of you that's your spark. It's that starting point. It's that thing that while you may not be the best in the world at it, it's a flame that you can fan. It's something that you can breathe life into and really begin to get good. But first, you have to understand the very nature of progress. And that's as Stephen Covey said. You're not the product of your circumstances, but rather a product of your decisions. And it's those decisions that are going to allow you to build that skill set. So don't worry about where you started. Don't worry about what you already have. Remember, it's the decisions that you make. It's going down that road. It is the decision to get started. It's the decision to face possible failure. It's the decision to get up once you failed. And it's the decision of what to learn when you fail. Do you learn that you're not good enough? Do you learn that you never should have tried? Or do you learn a lesson from the failure and get up and brush yourself off and remember that at the end of the day, you're going to go as far as you're willing to fight for, and that's it. And if you're willing to fight to go all the way, then you will go that far. You will set a new bar. You will define for people what is possible. You become that beacon of hope. You become that thing that other people look to as the standard. But at the end of the day, it started with you getting started. It started with you showing up. It started with you pushing and trying. So get out there. Don't worry about what you have and what you are. Focus on who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there.
People used to ask me like, oh, how do you get rid of the negative voice? I'm like, I don't know that you want to. Like the negative voice is a powerful reminder to practice gratitude. It's also a good reminder that maybe something is wrong. Maybe you are doing something wrong and you should adjust and you should rethink.
I was just about to say that sometimes your negative voice is what protects you. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but there can be times when it's protecting.
In fact, I'll say it like this. It probably does protect you all of the time, but it's so repetitive that you touch this issue and now we're into the 9,000th replay of this. That's where it becomes stupid. And so the one thing, yep, cool, got it. I do need to work on that. You're absolutely right. And then just letting it go, right? And not clinging onto it, not beating yourself up over it and all that stuff. But it has a use, which is why it's so powerfully with us.
When Elon Musk talks about, in his business, it's all about breaking things down to the physics. If you sell to people, the physics in your world is psychology and understanding what motivates them. So your company needs to have a why. If you know Simon Sinek and his brilliant book, Start With Why, you'll know what we're talking about, the golden circle. Most people know what they do. They may even know how they do it, but they oftentimes don't know why they do it. Why did we launch Quest Nutrition? Because we wanted to end metabolic disease. Now, nobody knew that from looking at a protein bar, but our marketing material was about that. We didn't do features and benefits. We said, stop sacrificing. We said, you should hold food companies to a new standard. It's ridiculous that food companies aren't engineering new equipment to make food that's both good for you and delicious. It's just ridiculous. Nobody's held their feet to the fire. People have been buying the same junk products for years. They're not going to change unless you force them to. And so we came along and said, we're going to be the bearer of standards. We know why we're doing what we're doing. So I can't release a product that has sugar in it. Why? Because that's not going to end metabolic disease. And that is my driver. I show up to work every day not thinking about making it rain and counting my money. I'm not swimming in it like Scrooge McDuck. I'm coming every day thinking about two people, my mom and my sister. And I ask a very simple question. Is this advantageous for my mom and my sister? Yes or no? If it is, I do it. If it's not, I don't. Now, a lot of times, what's advantageous for my mom and my sister was really expensive. It was super annoying to have to do it because it was like you watch your profit margins like, oh God. But it becomes an easy filter, and every business has to have a filter. Every business needs to know what they say yes to and what they say no to. And if you don't have that blinding guiding light, when you scale, you will fall apart. And the reason you will fall apart, your customers won't know who you are. They won't know how to communicate your message to somebody else. Your employees won't know who you are. They won't know what to communicate to each other, let alone the outside world. So it has got to be blinding. You have to be able to write it down. It has to be super clear. It's got to be direct, and it's got to be meaningful. And it has to be real. It's got to actually be something that drives you.
And this has been one of the most surreal things about my experience as an entrepreneur, is that the better I get at it, the more that I do, the more I feel lost, the more I feel like there's too much for me to possibly know and understand. And in that is my power. That's literally the source of my power, because I understand that my journey is one of learning. I understand that, as Naval Ravikant said, the genuine love for reading itself, when cultivated, is a superpower. The means of learning are abundant. It's the desire to learn that's scarce. But if you have that desire, if you cultivate that desire to learn, if you accept that you're in this big world that is far too big for you to understand every piece of it, but in recognizing that you don't understand it all and putting yourself on this quest to learn obsessively, to get better, to fall in love with the actual process of gaining knowledge, if you stay hungry for that at all times and you don't calcify your thoughts into dogma, but rather stay fresh, stay naive, stay hungry and foolish to really learn and grow, then you actually obtain power. And this is the part I want people to understand. Look past the words and hear what I'm really saying. As you take on the knowledge, as you're learning one thing after another, those skills have practical application. And it is that practical application, born of understanding how little you really know, that allows you to become far more powerful than the people that think they know. Because when they think they know, they stop growing. When they think they know, they calcify. When they think they know, their thoughts get brittle like bone and break. But when you think you know nothing, when you think you have to learn everything, when you're really just trying to figure out if something works, if it gets you the result, then those skills become real. They become tested by what you're doing. They are boundless because you're always trying to find that next thing. You're never self-satisfied. You're never self-congratulatory. You're simply asking, where do I want to go? What skills do I need to acquire to get there? And knowing that each one of those that you get, brick by brick by brick, builds a real path to where you want to go. So fall in love with the idea that you know nothing. Fall in love with the idea that learning is a superpower. Fall in love with that hunger. Want to get better every day. Never be tricked by the desire to be self-satisfied. Never be tricked by the desire to be great today. Never fool yourself into thinking who you are today is who you can become. I don't care how far you've come. I don't care how many accomplishments are in your rearview mirror. If you fall prey to that, your past will always be bigger than your future. And there is one mandate that I make of myself and anyone else that wants to be around me. Your future must always be bigger than your past. And the only way for that to be true is to love how little you really know, and to love how much you can learn if you just keep going. Listen, and listen well, because no truer words are ever going to be spoken. You can do anything you want without limitation. Whatever it is that you decide you want to make come true in your life, you can do that. It is going to take an inhuman amount of work. You're going to have to be prepared to break yourself in half. You are going to have to learn more than anyone has ever learned. You're going to have to push yourself harder than anyone has ever asked you to push yourself before. You're going to go way beyond your breaking point. You're going to run until you vomit. You're going to study until you fall asleep. You're going to push and push and push, and then you're going to push some more. And when you hit the limit, you're going to push again beyond that. You're going to force yourself into an adaptation response. And why? Because as Malcolm X said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. So if you don't put the work in today, if you don't do the unending, back-breaking work of developing yourself into something greater, the world is going to pass you by. The people that are going to own it are going to be the ones that did that work. And the one promise that I can make you right now is that somebody out there is outworking you. Somebody right now is doing the things that I'm saying. Somebody right now is doing the work of failing and getting up and getting better and pushing themselves and triggering that glorious adaptation response that makes humans the apex predator. Someone right now, they're putting in that work. And if you don't, the future is going to belong to them. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. It's not okay to make excuses. It's not going to slow people down. It's not okay to ask the world to stop so that you can step out front. It's not okay to expect little of yourself and demand great rewards. The only thing that's okay is to be in line with the way that the world really works. And if you want to be great, you've got to become capable of greatness. You've got to develop your skill set. You've got to take what you have now, and if that's crawling, then crawl, but you drag yourself ever forward to a vision of yourself that is so clear and so specific that nothing could knock you off your path, because you, my friend, know exactly where you're going. You're willing to pay whatever price it takes to get there, and no matter what anybody says, no matter how many hecklers come for you, no matter how many people try to throw dirt on you, try to stop you, try to knock you down, no matter how many people come for you at night while you sleep, you will rise and you will keep pushing forward, and you will get better every day. And no matter how many times people chop at you, knock you down, knock you off the path, you will get back on. You will crawl till you can walk, you will walk till you run, and then you will run until you fly. And that, my friends, is the only path forward. So if you want a future that makes you happy, if you want a world that you're excited about, get your ass out there and earn it.
One of the most important things that you can do is to get yourself in shape. Now, I am not a fan of working out. In fact, it is very fair to say that I really don't enjoy working out. But when I think about getting my brain in shape, one of the most important things you can do is get your blood pumping. Now, I'm also not going to lie, there are cognitive benefits psychologically, if nothing else, to also being strong and looking good. None of those are going to hurt your feelings. But the real reason that I spend my time in the gym is that you're sending a very particular signal to your brain when you're working out. And so you increase the production of things like BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, if I remember all the letters correctly. But basically, you're sending Miracle-Gro to your brain to make sure that you're creating the optimal neurochemical soup that you need in order to be performing at a high level. It really has big impacts on memory. And so getting in the gym, getting your blood pumping, getting yourself in good shape is going to be a critical part of getting rid of brain fog, making sure that you're incredibly sharp, and making sure that you're creating the growth factors in your brain that you need to enhance your memory. And that's going to be a big part of it. So I personally go into the gym roughly 5 times a week. There are definitely times where I might miss a day, and there are some weeks where I might add a day.
You have to fight to reach your dream. You have to sacrifice and work hard for it. That's coming from the man who has come to define natural talent. But that's what other people put on him. People want to see somebody who's just naturally talented. It's God-given. They were graced. They were blessed with something at birth. But what does he say when he's asked about what it took to become the person that he is? It took hard work. It took sacrifice. It took giving things up. It took doubling down. It took pushing himself every day, day after day. And that's the thing about hard work. When you put that kind of unending, blinding effort into something, it gets to the point where you've worked so hard that it looks like magic, that people would sooner believe that it's DNA, that it's gifted, that it is God-given, than to believe that they would have to work that hard to replicate it. But if you can stop making other people extraordinary as a way to let yourself off the hook, then you too can become extraordinary. All of us are capable of far more than we think. We're capable of more than the people who love us the most think. We are capable of more than the people who hate us the most would have us believe. At the end of the day, it is a very simple question you're going to have to ask yourself and answer for yourself. How hard are you willing to work? How much are you willing to sacrifice? But on the other side of that is power and energy. And as Kyle Rote Jr. said, if you're attacking, you don't get as tired as when you're chasing. And that's the key. When you know what you want, and when you will not be held back from getting it, suddenly you go on the offensive. It's not about pleasing somebody else. It's not about chasing somebody else, becoming them, or even beating them. It is about yourself knowing what you want and attacking it, going after it, and not letting anybody dissuade you. It is looking at yourself and recognizing how you have to improve to get that good, but you've got to hunger for that goal. You've got to hunger to get across and win. You've got to want that the way that a man whose head is on fire wants a pond. And when you get to that stage, when you're able to cultivate something in yourself like that, something that is refusing to be extinguished, something that will be heard, something that will stand up and be counted, then you're going to have what you need to get the skills that you need to move forward, to win, to attack. And in that attack, and having the energy to move forward relentlessly, you will find that even though you're working harder than you've ever worked in your life, you're more energized than you've ever been in your life. The times where you fatigue, they're not the times you're working the hardest. The times you fatigue are when you're being least yourself. You're not being true to who you are and what you want. So right now, start being honest about what it is you're willing to attack. Start being honest about who you want to be, what you're willing to become, and the price you're willing to pay to get there. If you give yourself over to that, you will not be able to be stopped.
There's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. A bowl of ice cream brings me happiness. It does not bring me fulfillment. Fulfillment is often born of suffering. Fulfillment is about doing the things that are hard. In fact, the Greeks have a word for it. It's called techne. Techne means that you acquire a set of skills that is unique to you. The acquisition of those skills was very difficult. And here's the important part. Those skills serve other people. To me, I believe that the very reason that we're all here is to see how many skills we can acquire that have utility and then put that utility to the test in service of others. That's going to be the thing that lights you on fire. That you're busting your ass. You're really getting good at something. You are taking action. You're moving forward. You're doing the things you need to learn to learn and trigger that adaptation response that humans have. You're putting yourself under the stress. You've identified a goal. You're working your way backwards to where you are today. And that's the key.
Now, building yourself begins with intention, clarity. You have to know who you want to become. You can't just show up in the gym of the mind and do random stuff any more than you can show up in the gym of the body and do random stuff and think that you're going to end up on the stage competing for Mr. Olympia. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have this clarity of focus. And the way that I always explain it to people come to me all the time and they're like, Tom, I want to help people, man. And I'm like, that is rad. That's coming from such a beautiful place. But telling me that you want to help somebody is like saying you want to win a gold medal. In what? The Olympics? Yes, fantastic. Summer or winter? Summer, great. Tennis or swimming? Swimming? Which event? Backstroke? The medley? Because until you know exactly in what way you are trying to serve people, you don't know what skills you need to acquire in order to leave people in awe so that you may become extraordinary. Skills have utility. Learning how to swim better makes you a faster swimmer. Building certain muscles in your arms and in your shoulders, all of the different things that go into getting great at any sport, all of those things must be learned with calculation. They must be practiced and rehearsed over and over and over. You have to push yourself long past the point of boredom. Boredom kills more people in the pursuit of success than any hater will ever kill. Boredom is the great killer of dreams. Boredom. Because people don't have the focus, they don't have the clarity of what they're trying to achieve. They have not built into their life an intoxication for what they're trying to accomplish.
First of all, each and every one of you needs to avoid what Kevin Kelly calls premature optimization. Then you need to go out and experience a whole lot of stuff. Now, premature optimization is where somebody thinks off the jump, oh, this thing, I'm kind of interested in that. I'm going to optimize my life for that thing. And the reason this happens is, God forbid, you went to a high school where they already made you choose like more or less a major, which they do in the UK, and I think is problematic, and some schools do here in the US, then certainly by the time you get to college, everyone is forcing you, they want you to pick a major. Then when you get out, you've got to get a job, and you want to get a job that makes sense with the major that you just got because you took on all this debt and you spent all this time. And so that's premature optimization. You literally made a decision when you were 18, maybe 17, terrifying. And now the whole rest of your life is an echo of that random decision you made before your brain was finished developing. Think about that for a second. Your brain doesn't stop developing until you're 25. So at 18, and that's late. Honestly, most people are thinking about it at 17 or even 16. You're making a decision, you're prematurely optimizing, you haven't experienced enough stuff, you don't know what really lights that initial spark of interest, and so you go down this path, you're at 25, you're having a quarter life crisis because you don't love what you do, it's a f***ing mess. So, my advice is to go experience a whole lot of things. Now, whether that's taking a gap year, which I would never have done, so trust me when I say that's not your only option, but you need to be experiencing a lot of stuff, trying a lot of things, taking a lot of classes, watching videos, tutorials, reading, learning, like figuring out what it is that you go, whoa, I really like that thing. It's not a passion, it's not gonna spark off like that. It's just experience, you find something, it piques your curiosity. You're more interested in that than the next thing. Okay, now we're going to engage with it. This is step 2. Engagement is different than just going and experiencing. So that's sort of a very non-committal, dilettante sort of way of involving yourself with something, just experiencing it. The next is I really like this and I'm gonna go hard on it. So if I took a dance class, now I'm gonna sign up for a year's worth of dance classes or something. I'm gonna start going and I'm really gonna see if I like this. And in that engagement process where you're starting to read about it, you're talking to other people about it, you're going to find out if the more you get into it, the more you're like, whoa, this went from an interest to like a real fascination. Fascination is that next gate. If it turns into a fascination and you're like, whoa, the more I learn about this, the more I want to learn, and the more that I get just excited about this, the more energy it gives me. Okay, that's a good chance then that thing can become a passion. Now we're going to go through the process of actually gaining mastery. Now, I think passion is like love, meaning it needs to be a reciprocal thing. So as you go down the process of gaining mastery, those skills need to then be useful in the real world, and the echo that you get back from the real world, that those skills are valuable to other people, the more you're going to be like, whoa, I feel good about myself. So now you had something that was interesting. It turned into a fascination the more you engaged with it. And now as you gain skills, you're actually able to serve other people who then give you that positive reinforcement where you're like, whoa, not only am I getting good at this, like that getting good has real world utility and it impacts other people. And then they echo that back and that makes me feel really good about myself. So I enjoy it in and of itself, and I enjoy that element of techne where as a social species, I am helping other parts of my tribe, and that feels really good. And it's something that other people value. That is the passion. Now, fanning the flames is a slightly different thing to the side of that, which is in that process, which I think it starts pretty early, probably starts back at the interest phase. As you get interested in something, you're going to start doing things like what I'm doing right now. 2 seconds before the camera started rolling, I was not talking like this. I did not have this energy level. I wasn't using my hands as much or my face as much, oddly enough. But embodying something is absolutely critical. So a big part of gaining a passion is telling other people what you're up to, allowing yourself to embody the excitement, telling yourself and other people that you're excited about it, and actually embodying that excitement, embodying that passion, which then your brain goes, whoa, we're getting really excited about this. You know, our volume is getting higher, we're getting more energetic, we're moving more. All of that stuff forces the brain to say, this must actually be really important. And when you start doing that, then you're beginning to hardwire your brain for that. And you're beginning to associate the emotion with that thing that you're doing. It is something that you can very much do as long as it's based on something real. I find that this is pretty ineffective if there isn't that real core level of interest. But if you have that real core level of interest, then all of a sudden everything that you do just magnifies that over and over and over.
And as Elon Musk said, if something is important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure. And that's where most people stop. And this is the one that drives me crazy. And this is the thing about really trying to do something with your life. Yes, you might fail. Yes, you might embarrass yourself. You might end up doing a faceplant. You might end up wishing that you hadn't even started. But if it's important enough, even in that moment, you've got to get back up and ask yourself, honestly, Where did I fail? What was the skill that I didn't have that was required of this task? And once you stop beating yourself up, once you stop turning inward with a judgment of I'm not good enough, and you start turning inward with the judgment of I don't have good enough skills yet, then you can do something, because you know it's only a matter of time, effort, and focus between who you are today and who you need to become to actually do that thing. So don't worry about whether or not you're gonna fail, because the only promise that I can make you is that you will fail. And as long as the only promise that you're willing to make yourself is that you won't stop, ultimately you will get to the top of the mountain. Only execution matters. Burn that into your nervous system. Get a tattoo. Do whatever you need to do to remind yourself, only execution matters. Thinking about it, feeling good about it, those are awesome. But if you have a vision of something you're trying to do, become, whatever, and you don't execute against it, and I don't need you to want to build a big business. If you tell me you want to be the greatest parent of all time, then I'm going to ask you, what are you doing to execute on that goal? What are you doing? How do you define it? What are your deliverables? What are the metrics by which you're judging yourself? And by the way, if you don't want a grand goal, you don't need one. But then say, what I'm trying to do is get centered. I'm trying to experience happiness. Even that, you can begin to look at ways that you can improve that. Now, I very much subscribe to the theory that the human animal is an active species, meaning it will forever be moving forward. I think that's a good thing. It's one of the most exciting things in my life. And I have 3 fears. 1, brain damage. That freaks me out. 2, losing my wife because, damn, that woman's cool. And then 3, I don't ever want to feel like I've hit the end of what I can do. I always want to feel like there's something more that I can learn and grow into. So keeping in mind, execution is how you get there, no matter what your path is.
What is that mindset of constantly working on yourself without judging yourself to a deeper level, without doing it in a way that always pulling you down, but always pushing you up? And you're doing that in your relationship. Whenever I watch relationship theory, I think the conversations you and Lisa have, incredible. So it seems like you're doing it in all areas of your life. Which area did it start in? Which areas did it evolve to? Let's just break that whole.
Yeah, so let's answer that question.
Yeah.
So where did it start and where did it go? So the honest answer is that, like many of the most amazing things in my life, they were born of misery. And I was deeply and profoundly unhappy, dissatisfied with who I was, what I was capable of, where I was in life, all of it. I was just really unhappy about it. Now, the one good thing is I've always met things like that with, and what can I do? And I have a bias towards action. And then I've cultivated that bias towards action, which is how it's gotten extreme and is permeated into every area of my life. Okay, so it starts with it's this dark place. This, like I said, I failed in film school. I didn't fail in film school. I graduated second in my class, but there was a failure that was so emotionally catastrophic that everybody else would have been like, oh, you got a B, like what's the problem? Sure, I got a B in the class, but I didn't walk away with a thesis film that I could use to get a job as a filmmaker. So for me, it was like, whoa, I just lost massively. So I'm, in this very dark place. I'm broke as the day is long. I can't afford furniture. I literally sit on the floor in my unfurnished apartment like that. Just it's a normal phase that people go through, but then put on top of that I'm feeling down and stuck, like I don't know where I'm going to go. Propensity towards action kicks in. I start reading. I'm learning about the brain, figuring out how much of this can I change. I realize I can change it. And then that change felt so good. And even, let's do a thought exercise. This is for people listening because you're already there. But for anybody listening, and you're listening to Jay because you want to get there, you see something, which by the way, you feel when you're with him, it is real. And I love that about you. But like this sense of peace, like the normal slings and arrows of life, he's found a way to deal with. I won't say that he doesn't have them, but he's found a way to deal with it. And that's what you're looking for. So going into that, it's like, if you are in a dark place and you hear change is real, change is possible, doesn't that lift your mood? Don't you want that to be true? And once you allow it, because you have to allow it. Once you allow that to lift your mood and you're like, I feel better just by thinking I can change. That was huge for me. That was like moment 1 was when I realized I actually can change. So this thing that feels like a death threat, this like smothering cloud of just like despair, it can clear away. And it immediately, and it's not like, oh, it went from gray skies to blue skies. It wasn't that immediate, but it was literally immediately a lighter load just because I realized I can change. So I was like, whoa, I can change. None of this is a death sentence. That's so just amazing. That was enough to get me going. And people are always looking for, how do I have that energy? I'm depressed. I'm down on myself. How do I get the energy to push through? Man, you've got to find a way to find energy in that. You can change. So whatever position you're in right now, you can change no matter what it is, no matter how horrific, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done. There is a way out from under it. But part of it is allowing that sense of lightness to be there. So I allowed it.
There's a gap between who you are today and who you will need to become in order to execute against your why. That thing in you that's burning, that you really care about enough to get across the finish line, that you care about enough to keep doing even when it's making your hands cramp closed, that you care about enough even when you've got to come in and work between rival gang members. It's the thing that you care about enough that you really will work so hard that the rival gang members fall in line behind you because you're leading by example. Thank you. And that became my mission every day. I'm going to show up and outwork everybody. I'm going to be the first one here. I'm going to be the last one to leave. And most importantly, guys, I really hope you were listening to Robert Cialdini, whose books I have read and all but memorized. The key is you want to connect with them. You want them to fall in love with you. You want them to be inspired. You want them to feel better about themselves when they're around you than when they're not. And if you can pull that off, they will go to war for you.
Think about it. If somebody is going to come after you and they want to hurt your feelings, there is one thing every time they will reach for. That is something that is true. When people try to hurt you, they go for the most real thing and they jab you right in your heart because they know it's going to hurt because it's real, man. And that's mean for sure, and it hurts for sure. But if you think of it like this, when somebody's throwing a rock at you with the intention of hurting you, you can put your defenses up, you will deflect that rock, never to be seen again, or you can lower your defenses, let it hit you in the face, knowing that it will hurt, but also knowing now at your feet is not a rock, it's a lump of gold. Because they've given you an insight into where you are weak. Now, once you know where you are weak, you can begin to build yourself. And that is my thesis on life. You get to build yourself in any direction you want, in any way, to become anything you want. There will be an extraordinary price to pay, but you can go in any direction.
I don't go, oh, that's interesting, bright line. I go, okay, that's interesting. I want to explore that more. What would that look like? How would that serve me? What would it really feel like for me? How's it playing out in my life? Does it actually have real world implications? And this isn't all something that I sit down in one quick session. That's what I'm thinking about. I may think about it for weeks, a month, more, 6 months, who knows? And it depends on what kind of impact that it's going to have in my life. So you don't lead with bright lines to create a habit. Let's be really clear about that. So habits are something different. Getting in routines and habits is a place to start. And then if you find, I have a morning routine, I have habits that I do every morning, but they are things that I'm very flexible on, that creates a lot of mobility in my life. If I wake up late or something like that, then I'll just shave this out or the other. Bright lines, if I have a bright line, I don't with my bright lines. I do my bright lines. So that's the whole point of a bright line. They are absolutely non-negotiable. So be very careful about what you put bright lines around. Make sure it is something that's leading you towards your goal. And I think better to make it a habit and a routine first and see if it actually has an advantage, if it's something that's important and if it's something that you struggle with, and think that it's really, really important and you need that bright line.
And in the beginning, when all we could do, because we didn't know production, we just had to throw human capital at it. And I needed people there, not kidding, at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. I had a bunch of ex-convicts in their early 20s with the tattoos on the face, the teardrop and all that, grinding it out to make protein bars because I gave them hope. Because I showed them that it doesn't matter who they are today, it only matters who they're trying to become and the price that they're willing to pay to get there. And so when you guys walk out of here, that's what you've got to ask. This whole theme of pivoting, this whole theme of keeping your center is about knowing what you want and believing you can make it a reality. But the only way to make it a reality is to put in the work. You've got to put in the work. The change is hard. The change is difficult. The change will demand everything of you. But man, if inside you really believe in what you're doing, you really see how you can get to that goal that you want, if you really see how you can serve other people doing what you do with this skill set that you've worked your ass off to acquire, then you can actually make change in people's lives. And that's what motivates me. Getting the skills has real world implications. It took me from scrounging in my couch cushions to find enough change to put gas in my car to building $1 billion business. It is absolutely limitless what you can accomplish. Now think about that. If that's really true, if what I just said is true, that human potential is limitless, then how you spend your time becomes a spiritual consideration.
Now, I don't think that we're born blank slates, but we are so close to that. To worry about where your limits are is to miss how much you can improve. So focus on how much you can improve. There's an amazing quote by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, the author of the Gulag Archipelago. And what he said was, the line between good and evil runs through every human heart. To me, it's not about good and evil. To me, it's about malleability. That's a statement of how shapeable we are. Now, here's the terrifying thing about how we get shaped. It happens when you're young. You get all these things that come to you that seem to be simply true. I believed that the human mind couldn't change. I believed that it was fixed. I believed that my talent and intelligence were just what they were. It all seemed true. It wasn't like I knew it to be a lie. It wasn't even like I knew that I had a choice to think of it a different way. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Albert Einstein. And he said, the most important decision any human being has to make is whether they live in a friendly or a hostile universe. Decision. The most important decision anyone has to make. Because neither of those two states is empirically true, but either will immediately appear true once you decide to believe it. So once you decide to believe, the world is working for me, this shit is happening for me, it's not happening to me, I know this room has heard that statement. Once you believe that, you start looking for the ways in which that was powerful. How is the worst thing that ever happened to me actually secretly the best thing that's ever happened to me? And so suddenly I started saying, how is this shame of sitting in bed, how is this the best thing that's ever happened to me? How is this soliary type awareness of just how dumb I really am, how is that powerful? And the thing that winds me up, when I say that, when I talk about I started from not being that bright, nobody thought I was going to win, my own mother thought I was going to fail, my father-in-law did not want me to marry his daughter, they think that I'm just being humble or that even I misidentified myself. But the reality is that's how shapeable a human being is. And I had made decisions, I had chosen to believe things, I had chosen to value myself for things, I had built my self-esteem around things that were not moving me forward. And so I began to change my belief system. I began to change the things that I value. And think about values. Think about how much they shape your life. Depending on where you grow up, you could become one of the members of the tribe on North Sentinel Island who killed that missionary who rolled up on their beaches. They just started hitting that fool with spears and arrows and just fucking killed him. You could be that. You could be a warrior of Sparta. You could be a Nazi guard. Depending on the time and the place you grow up in, you could be a Manhattan socialite. You could be a party girl. You could be one of any countless identities that we see in the world. Not because you were born to be that thing. If we were born to be something, then we would still see some percentage of Spartan warriors being born today. We would see North Sentinelese born in Omaha, Nebraska. But we don't, because each of these places carries with it a value system, a belief system, things that are unique to that group that you grow up in, what your parents tell you about your family, about you, what it means to be you, what you learn in schools, what you see in the media, all of that stuff is shaping how you view yourself and how you view the world. But it's happening insidiously because it is so invisible. People don't realize that they are choices. Now, once you reframe all of this as these are things that I'm choosing to believe, and once you realize that you can choose to believe something new and thusly get a different result, everything changes.
All right, focus on value. Only value is sustainable. You want to make sure that you're delivering value at every touch point. Your customer service should deliver value. Your marketing message should deliver value. Your advertising in and of itself should deliver value. Your ads should be served to the people who, even though they can skip it after 4 seconds, they don't. That's when you're actually delivering value.
What we all have to understand is at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how good is your product. Whether you're trying to build a company or you're trying to be a kick-ass employee or you're trying to be the best parent of all time, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is getting good. The only thing that matters is actually delivering an extraordinary performance. Until you get to that point where you can actually knock it out of the park, until you get to the point where you can captivate people with what you're able to do, you haven't gotten anywhere. If you want to be great, if you want to leave a legacy, if you want to be remembered, you've got to focus on the acquisition of skills. You have to focus on actually getting good. That's the only thing that's really going to capture people's imagination.
So we all come to a relationship with like expectations about how we think people should act. And unfortunately, we don't recognize our expectations as expectations. We recognize them as truth. This is how the world is. It is how the world should be. And when we think that they have those same beliefs and values and rules and all that. And so given this scenario, there's only one way to act. That is certainly obvious. And so when the person doesn't act like that, we take it personally, like, whoa, do you not respect me? Do you not love me? Do you not care about me? And it just isn't that. They have a different set of beliefs and rules. There's enough nuanced difference that they're not, if they're intending to hurt you, you have a whole different set of problems. But assuming that they're not intending to hurt you, then you have a communication problem. So Lisa and I actually define our terms. So we have a few words in our marriage that they mean something. So if I say, hey, baby, it's important to me that you leave that, glass of water on the table, then she just wouldn't move it, period. Simple as. Like the word important like comes in all caps with exclamation points glowing red. Like that's like when we say it, like it's a drop whatever you're doing, like it's important that you do X, Y, or Z. Now the big thing is when you define a word like that, you can't ever abuse it. So like, I would never say it's important to me that you leave it. It's got to be just extraordinary. Like how many times do I tell her something's important in a year? I don't know, 6, 7 times in a year. Wow. So it's like, it's really got to be limited. And then another one is promise. If I say, I promise I'm going to do that, dude, I'm going to do that. Like there's no two ways about it. So you never throw around promise ever under any circumstance. And so, dude, it's like you really, really have to be hardcore. And the other way that we use promise is if she says, how does this dress look on me? I'm like, yeah, it looks great. And she's like, you promise? Then it's like, all right, it makes you look fat. What can I say? You know what I mean? It's like, but then you cut to like the chase on something. Now, the thing is, you can't say that all the time. You can't be like, how's this dress make me look? Fine, promise. What do you think of this dinner? You like it? Yeah, I love it. Promise. Like if you're doing that, it loses everything.
Totally.
But if you're saving it for like, in fact, God, I almost don't remember the last time I asked Lisa to promise something like that. But that you haven't. We certainly used it more in the early days of our marriage. But even then, like how many times a year? 3 or 4? I mean, it's like, but it really forces you to respect these things that you make sacred in your relationship.
For the person who's stuck, for the guy or gal who's in the cubicle, who hates their job, is in a dysfunctional relationship, is in debt, whatever the case may be, desperately wants a way out, a way forward, a lifeline. Where does that process begin for you? Like, what is the advice that you give that person?
So it begins with believing or acknowledging that humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. So the thing that has made us the apex predator is not that we're stronger. it's not even that we're smarter. In fact, the quote often attributed to Darwin is that, oh, it's the survival of the fittest. He actually didn't say that. What he did say was, it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but rather the most adaptive to change. Now, the reason that humans are the apex of all apexes is because we are the most adaptive species to change. So if you know that, then it becomes infinitely less important who you are today. And what matters is, who do you want to become? And what price, and the price being the time and energy that you're going to put into acquiring the skills to become that person. So imagine the person that you want to be, how would they act? And then start acting like that. If the person that you want to be would leave their job and, regardless of whether they had a safety net, burn the ships and go after something new, then that's what you should do. If the person that you want to be would start working nights and weekends because they very much value having a stable income that they can provide for their family or themselves, whatever, but are going to be disciplined and spend nights and weekends to get the skill set to go be more valuable somewhere else or to start their own company, whatever, then do that.
Social media is going to allow you to have real, meaningful relationships with your customers. I will tell you one very fast. In the very early days of Quest, when all of us had to go out and actually make the bars, I'm out making bars, our chief marketing officer's out making bars, like everybody's out there. There would be periods of time where we wouldn't respond to somebody on Facebook. But this one woman started responding. And we thought, wow, that's so weird. Like, did somebody create a fake account? Like, is that one of you guys? And everyone's like, no, man, we didn't do that. That's a real person. And she would tell people like, oh, don't worry, I'm sure they'll get back to you quickly. They're a really great company. And we were and this is like early 2010. We're like, what is happening? And so we reached out and said, hey, we want to put you on payroll. She's like, I don't want to be on payroll. And I'm like, whoa, okay, now I'm getting freaked out. Like, what do you want? And she was like, I just want you to continue to deliver a service. I'm a nutritionist and I use your bars with a lot of people. I just want to make sure that you're around. So we developed this really cool relationship with her. We all got to know her. She held us to a standard. She was not always nice. She was always fair, but she wasn't always nice. If we were doing something poorly from a product standpoint, like Weights and Measures will let you ship product that's heavy. You just can't ship light. Okay? So imagine you get your bag of Doritos. Your bag of Doritos is going to be heavy. It's never going to be light. Now, so we're thinking, okay, cool, we have to comply with Weights and Measures, but we're a health and fitness company. So people are like, if I'm buying 60 grams and that's what I have in my diet plan, I want to make sure I'm eating 60 grams and not 65. And so she would call us out on it. So we ended up buying a piece of equipment because of that relationship that we had with this woman that we'd never met. And then one day she went silent. We wrote to her mom, hey, is everything okay? And her mom said she passed away. She was like 28. And I got like really emotional. And I'd never met her. And I'm not like that guy, but I got legitimately emotional. And I wrote a manifesto. And I said to everyone in the company, basically, we exist to serve these people. Every one of them is trying to do something that we may know nothing about. And they're using our products. And so we started celebrating her. Her name's Joy Ramita. We've been doing it for 4 years now. The Joy Ramita Superfan Award. We bring somebody in that's been amazing to the community. We just give them a big blowout party at our headquarters, give them behind the scenes access to cool stuff just to say thank you. And that's when we really realized it may not be the kind of relationship you have with your mom or your brother or your sister or your spouse, but it's meaningful, man, in a way that business relationships haven't been since like the local general store and you saw the same people come in every day. It really is like if you can flip that switch in your mind and see it as something beautiful, I'm telling you, it will open you up to a whole new way of interacting with your customers because there's a lot of amazing stuff going on in your communities that you may not even know about or that you could really feed into and build into something amazing. And if you stay focused on it being a community of people that are supporting themselves, each other, and your company, then you can do some pretty incredible things.
Just being honest, even when it sucks. Because let me tell you how many times it's going to be where if you just lied, oh God, it would be so much easier and you would probably get away with it. But the way that I explain lying to people is you get away with it 50% of the time. And so it tempts you to think it's a good strategy. But the other 50% of the time, it is cratering trust. And once you can't trust the person, all hope is lost. And there's nothing more beautiful than being in a relationship with somebody who makes you feel like they're number one,
and that you totally trust them. And Lisa wrote this Instagram post about how she could see a photo of me with my arm around a woman or resting my head on a woman or hugging her or whatever. And it wouldn't even make her radar to question it. So that's the fun for us, is having that level of trust. Now it's like, I think it's Buffett that said, you spend your entire life building your reputation, only takes 5 seconds to lose it. So it's like, we're so careful. For 18 years, we've been earning trust with each other. So like, dude, so especially when I was back at Quest, and it was, women would come and flirt and hit on me because they wanted something, wanted to be sponsored by the company or whatever. And I was around literal bikini models like all the time. And so if ever there was going to be a moment of insecurity for my wife, it would have been that period. A, she wasn't insecure. And B, the thought of throwing away 18 years of shared experience, of all that trust and everything, sex is like rad and super exciting and I love it the most. But like compared to what I would have to give up for something like that, it just doesn't rate on the radar. So, and by the way, something like I'm saying now, which most people would hide from their spouse. Oh, yeah, of course I find other people attractive. What are you talking about? Like, we just openly talk about that. Like, she'll nudge me and be like, oh my God, don't you think she's hot? It's like, that's just, we set up early on in the relationship to be aggressively ourselves. And one thing that we both were really honest about was, I was like, look, it is human nature. You are going to find other guys attractive. And I will actually trust you more if you admit when you find somebody attractive than if you say something stupid like, I only have eyes for you. Oh, really? You're the only human in all of history to like, transcend their human nature. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then that's a super fragile place to be, because what happens if I get older? What happens if I get injured or scarred? Like, then I'm really supposed to believe that suddenly you're more attracted to somebody with a scar than somebody without? Like, it doesn't make sense. So we all live in this fragile bubble of, well, as long as they lie to me, it's okay. And as long as I'm willing to believe, and even though secretly I know it's a lie, and then it's the more pious than thou, like, oh my God, she's thinking all these nice things about me, but I'm actually finding other people attractive and I'm just lying about it. And so then you're like, wait, if I'm lying about it, is she lying about it? And so it erodes all that trust. So from the jump, we were like, look, you're going to find other people attractive. I'm going to find other people attractive. But let me introduce you to this magical word called commitment. Now, I'm with you because I love you, because I respect you, but I'm also with you because I'm committed to you. And so you don't have to worry that I'm going to be looking over my shoulder for a more attractive woman. There are going to be more attractive women than you, for sure, especially as you age. Who the f*** cares? You're my wife. We have shared an experience. We've shared a life. We've built this around each other. And commitment means something to me, going back to having that code that you live by. And the rules and the code that I live by, I'm never going to betray that.
Yeah.
So it's like, we've always said, I may break up with you one day, because I'm not saying that like, oh, there's nothing you could do that would make me break up with you. For sure there is. But I'm never going to cheat on you. I may come and say, I'm breaking up with you because I'm going to go have sex with somebody else, but I'm absolutely not going to go have sex with somebody behind your back. Never going to happen. So like having that trust and knowing who the other person is, like all that stuff is super meaningful. And look, there's just more and more and more stuff, but those are some big ones.
Tom, how do you process issues? Do you have a system on what you go through? Something happens, something comes up in your brain. Is there a step process you go through?
Yes.
What is it?
Starts with a goal. So what is my goal? Well, first it starts with clearing the emotion, because probably whatever I was told just had some emotion. I recenter myself. The thing that I probably repeat to myself the most is, you can do anything you set your mind to on a long enough timeline. So I know I can learn anything. So if the thing that hits me is overwhelming because I'm scared, I don't know how to do it, you can do anything you set your mind to. So at the end of this thinking through is going to be the question, are you willing to set your mind to it or not? And then I identify, okay, what's my goal? Does this move me towards my goal, yes or no? I think through the process of, has somebody done it? Is there already a well-laid path from where I'm at to actually completing this? Which is how I decided that we were going to take on Disney, because looking at the only studio ever in the history of time to be disciplined enough to only tell one kind of story from 1,000 different angles, so much so that they gave birth to Americana, is Disney. No other studio. Everyone else is all over the map. If I say I'm going to go see a Sony movie or a Paramount movie, you don't know anything about it. But if I say I'm going to go see a Disney movie, you already know something. So their name brand means something. So I could see, oh, there's a path from where I'm at to the impact that I want to have. So I throw that out just as a reminder of the path that I'm walking, more than I have some particular obsession with Disney.
Fascinating. And by the way, in your mind, do you see it already, that vision becoming a reality?
No question.
No question. No question about it.
For sure. And look, I have days of where I'm like, how the am I actually going to do this? But then you come back to, you can learn anything you set your mind to, so just keep marching forward. The number one question I get, and I get this question so much you can't imagine, how do I find my passion? The good news is, passion is not something that's handed to you. It is not a lightning bolt moment. It's another nice, simple mathematical equation. First of all, you need to identify your areas of interest. Everybody's interested in something. And I find the big problem is people stop themselves because they say, yeah, well, the thing that I'm interested in couldn't possibly be a business. So let's take video games back in the 80s. Back when everybody thought that video games were a joke, you're ruining your brain, it's like intellectual candy, kids get off the computer, go play outside, Nintendo's a joke, it's ridiculous. And then we have an entire industry now that's born up around video games that has made untold numbers of millionaires. I met one of the founders of Riot Games that created League of Legends. The guy is like, I don't know, 31, maybe younger. I mean, just crazy. They do $1 billion in revenue from microtransactions of things that are not essential to play the game. The game is totally free to play. You don't need to pay for anything. Imagine that for a second. You're in an industry where they don't need to buy anything to get full use of your game, and yet you do over $1 billion in revenue because they said, I love this. I like being around games. I like the competition of it. I think it's amazing. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to be inventive. I'm going to look for areas to add value. And so they have. And more people now watch esports, the finale of League of Legends, than watch the finales, I think, of all major sports combined. It's crazy. They fill arenas. It's absolutely bonkers. But that was somebody who said, this is something I love. It's something I want to be around. It is an area of interest, and I don't care if other people tell me that it can't be a business. It's what I want to be around. With enough ingenuity and enough forethought into what actually can be a business, because some things can't, you can really do something with something that's an interest. All right, so an interest, you need to gain mastery in it. During the process of gaining mastery, you'll find out whether you actually like that thing enough to become great at it. It is my belief, whatever it is you set out to do as a business, there should be one litmus test. You should be able to ask and affirmatively answer the following question. Do I want to know more about this than anyone else in the world? Don't get into something unless you plan to be the best. That's my piece of advice. I know that's not going to sit well with everybody. But if you want to have the passion to make something big, to make big change, it's got to be something that you believe in beyond reasonable doubt. It's got to be something you've just got to make happen. So ask yourself, do I want to know more about this than anyone else? Because you're going to have to get better at it than anyone else if you want to be excellent and deliver on the promise.
There are very concrete habits that you can use, that I have used. Once you get your mind in the right place, once you believe that it can happen, this is what I did. I worked out. Why? Because it helped me gain control of my mind. One, it was micro-credibility with myself every day. I said I was going to do something, I did it. Two, when you're suffering and you're willing to fight through it, you tell yourself a story that you're willing to pay the price to become what you want to become. And also, and this may be the most important reason each and every one of you should start working out, and it has nothing to do with living longer, because we could get hit by a meteorite, who knows? So I'm not even worried about that, but I am worried about this. When you watch your body transform, you get the loudest signal from your subconscious that you can change. That you can change anything you want, that you can change your bicep, your tricep, your quad, whatever it is that you want. Something that you literally could not do the day before, you can do today. And your mind sees that that's true. Your mind sees that something you couldn't pick up yesterday, you can pick up today. And it begins to ask itself, well, if that's possible, then what else is possible? Now, for me, finding my center was also a very important thing. So I work out first. The next thing I do without fail is meditate. I do a just breathe meditation where I'm simply trying to calm my mind. Then I do what I call thinkitating. During meditating, I get into an alpha wave state brain pattern, which enhances creativity and unique connections. I'm not worried about whether I'll ever think a unique thought. I am simply interested in the unique connections that I will make that no one else before me or after me will ever make, because their circumstances are different than mine. And that, to me, is what makes each of us a beautiful snowflake. is we're all going to make connections that other people might not make. And so during thinkitating, I take advantage of a problem I'm trying to solve, I smash it together with my alpha wave state, and I see what comes out of it. I read obsessively, because I believe in one simple math equation: ideas in equal ideas out. And then I keep a list of the most important things I'm trying to accomplish. If you're trying to become something, you need to know what that something is.
You really do have reasons not to be successful. But now what? Like, now what? Now what are you going to do? Like, I remember I was giving a talk at Google, and one of the guys happened to be African American, and he said, "Tom, do you think it's harder for me as a black person in America to succeed?" And I said, "That seems patently self-evident. Even just accepting that humans tend to gravitate towards those that look like them, what I call the school of fish phenomenon. You always see the same kind of fish with the same kind of fish. So being a minority, just by definition, is going to make things harder. But now what? Like, now you can take that excuse and give yourself an out to not try, to not get started, which is something you talk a lot about. Or you can say, regardless of that, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get where I want to go."
If you haven't read Angela Duckworth's book on grit, I highly recommend it. It is amazing. I'll give you some of the key takeaways. The biggest part about grit is sustained effort over time. If you lose interest quickly in something, once or twice, no big deal. It is what it is. You realize that it wasn't your thing. But if you lose interest over and over and over and over and over, and you always only enjoy the first 6 months of a business, and then you want to move on, you lose interest very quickly, you need to work on developing your grit, being able to sustain that over time. Because building any business, you're going to encounter hard things. You need to be able to do those hard things, focusing on the hard things. In fact, I try to start every day with one of the hardest things, to get it out of the way, to remind myself that I'm willing to attack that. All right, you want to be able to persist through boredom and suffering. I told you guys that's one of my superpowers. Long after everybody else gives up because they're not having fun anymore, I'm still there banging away at it. That's really, really important in order to create momentum, to keep things moving, and to finally get them across the finish line. A lot of people are able to get something to the 50-yard line or maybe even the 1-yard line, but they just can't quite push it over the finish line. And that is the difference between somebody who's a wantrepreneur and somebody who ends up being successful the way that they want. They can get it across the finish line. All right, learn to tell the difference between a lack of grit and genuine disinterest. If you're not interested in something, you need to move on quickly. But like I said, if that becomes serial, you may have a problem. And if you're only good in the beginning, that's the sign that you lack grit. The important thing here to note is that everyone needs an ego. Everyone needs self-esteem. Everyone needs to feel good about themselves. And the crazy thing, when you really stop and think about suicide, and this is a new obsession of mine, if you stop and think about suicide, what has happened? That person believes, falsely, but they believe that they'll never be happy again, that they'll never feel good about themselves again. And that's why it's referred to as a permanent solution to a temporary problem, because that will pass. But in that moment, it feels like it couldn't ever go away. So we need to find things that make us feel good about who we are. Because when you lose a sense of feeling good about who you are, life truly feels hopeless. So that's critical. And people often talk about, to stay away from an ego, to not pride yourself on things. But I'm telling you, that person prides themselves on not having an ego. And so it becomes what you pride yourself on is absolutely incredible. Now, don't make the mistake that I made. I used to want to be smart. When I talked about being the king of remedial jobs, it was because I wanted to put myself in situations where I was the smartest person in the room. And in doing that, I was always going into smaller and smaller rooms. But it felt so good to be right. And the problem was I was wrong a lot of the times. Now, when this one finally came to a head, my business partners, who were far smarter than I am in terms of IQ, processing data, which I define IQ as your ability to process data rapidly. They could process data very rapidly. And we would get into arguments and I would always lose, and it was very frustrating. And I remember one day, finally, I actually convinced them to do something my way. And I realized, oh, I just won the argument, but I know I'm wrong. And so now what? I've gotten what I thought I wanted. I finally won this victory. If I don't feel smart myself, at least I'm getting reflected back to me that I've solved the problem. And now I feel totally stuck. Because if I really want to move towards my goal of getting rich, it does not help to do things that I know are against the company just to be right. And in that moment, I realized what I had to do was switch my self-esteem from being right to pursuing the right answer faster than anyone else. And then putting energy behind that and being like, oh my gosh, Timmy came up with the idea, or it was Sally, and Sally, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And giving them so much energy to try to see it through because that's the right idea. And then I began to develop my reputation of being the guy that even if 3 seconds before that I'd been fighting for another idea, once I realized I was wrong, I would admit it. And it's amazing what reputation you can build around that. And it is way more effective for business.
I switched my self-esteem from being right and being smart to being the learner who was always willing to admit that he was wrong, identify the right answer, give credit to the person who thought of it, and put more energy behind it than anyone else. And that became my driver. Now, what did I do with that driver? I turned that change in attitude, along with my co-founders at Quest Nutrition, into building, as Vishen said, the second fastest growing company in North America, valued at over $1 billion, every financial dream I'd ever had in my life come true. But at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered had nothing to do with the money. And it had everything to do with, we set out to build a business around value creation. We set out to actively ask one question: what would we do and love every day, even if we were failing? And that, for 3 very different reasons, ended up being attacking the pandemic of the body, trying to help people live a more beautiful life. And there were times where putting that value first meant that we did things that were less profitable. There were times where we put that value first and it was outright stressful to the company. But that was the driver. And that was the thing that actually allowed us to grow, because people could feel that this company was different. They could feel that we weren't after the sale. They could feel what we wanted was to help. And in today's world, leading with that, as you guys know if you're at this conference, can have tremendous rewards.
What does the meditation process specifically look like?
Dead simple. So I use what I call Just Breathe. So it was born of Mark Divine's box breathing. At least he was the one that introduced it to me. So he preaches, do it 4 equal parts. So you've got the inhale is the exact same length as the inhale hold, exact same length as the exhale, exact same length as the exhale hold. Now doing that made me feel out of breath. I just felt weird. So what I started doing was, I'm going to maximize the pleasure in each part of the breath cycle. So for me, it happens to be a sort of medium inhale, a very short inhale hold, a rapid exhale. I just let the air out. And then a very prolonged exhale hold. Mm-hmm. And that rhythm feels awesome. And I do that for 10 or 15 minutes and I can get into an alpha wave state. I feel calm, creative. It just feels awesome. That's one of those things that people that haven't tried meditation or tried it but never got to the part where it feels awesome, my heart breaks for them. It is a tool I rejected for so many years because it felt wussy to me. And remember, I'm the guy that had to learn to toughen up. So I feared that was like backwards momentum. And so finally, when Mark Divine looked at me and was basically like, stop being an idiot and try this. And he's like this tough ass Navy SEAL. Yeah. I thought, all right, I'm going to try. And then it changed my life.
You don't get skills because it looks good on a resume. You get skills because it lets you do the thing you want to do. So let's use sports as an example. It's just all too easy not to use it. So if you're in poverty and you're Lionel Messi and you realize, actually, I think, who's the other one?
Cristiano
Ronaldo, thank you. He was in the grips of poverty. And nice, that's perfect. So Cristiano Ronaldo, in the grips of poverty, realizes that playing soccer is a way out for him. And so he goes and gets the skills. Why? Because if he can win on the soccer field, then he can actually elevate his family out of poverty. Like when you see that trail, it goes back to the Nietzsche quote. If you have a why, you can survive almost any how. So how am I going to get there? The amount of work that Cristiano Ronaldo has put in to become one of the greatest, if not the greatest football player of all time, it's inhuman. Anybody else would look at it and say, nope, not willing to do that. And fair enough. But it was somebody who said, if I gain these skills, it will let me dribble around people,
score when other people can't score, galvanize a team around me, leverage it to be wanted by teams, to turn into financial resources, to make me famous so that I can get brand deals and things like that. All the things that he would need to do to pull himself out of poverty. Like, this stuff isn't an accident. It's about skill acquisition. So there's another kid that had the same dream. I'm going to use soccer to get me out of poverty, and did nothing about it, therefore did not have the skills, therefore could not elevate their family out of poverty, and looks at it like, well, this is all circumstance. It's not circumstance. It's cause and effect. It's how much energy do you put into actually gaining the skills, and did you gain them? Or did you just put in the energy and the effort thinking that should be enough to gain it, but you didn't actually gain them? So this is what it's like. The gift I want everybody to receive is, you can get good at anything you set your mind to. But do you actually set your mind to it? Do you have that inhuman level of follow through? Do you keep pushing and fighting long after it stopped being fun, deep into boredom, because you have a why? You know why you're doing what you're doing, and you're just driving towards that. And when you have that, you can accomplish this extraordinary stuff. But I really think people now are doing it for the gram. You're doing it for the gram. You want to go to that thing and do it because it's like, oh, this is going to look good on my gram. And look, I've done that 100 times. I get it. But at the core of my existence is not that. At the core of my existence is, I'm going to, in the amount of time that I have, I'm going to be acquiring skills.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. For even more Tom Bilyeu motivation, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The reason that people are telling you to have patience in the short term, because here's what anybody telling you to have patience is trying to get you to understand one very simple thing. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, it takes a very long time.